Let's try it again. What is going on? How you guys doing tonight? Welcome to another episode of Hope. Tonight is gonna be real. Tonight's gonna be real. I'm hell of excited about this class. It's gonna be simplicities that get expanded, and there's gonna be some complicated things that get reduced. So please, like we say, buckle up, buttercup. It's gonna be one of them ones. So let's jump right into it. So let's talk about a little bit what we talked about last week in class. Having a recap. We talked about having a daily dose of stress, meaning healthy stress is important for you. And that was new to some of you because I got some texts reaching out about it. That's new. Why would I introduce stress into my life? I want to reduce the stress in my life. Well, here's why. It's an easy equation. Last year got this, but the ones who don't, here's your equation. Stress plus nutrients equals growth. Stress plus nutrients equals growth. So, just like in any math equation, let's separate them out and see if they work. Stress by itself, stress plus nothing equals death. Because too much stress could drive you early death, and that's known. It's a scientific fact. Too much nutrients equals death too. So just like now in America, over 70% of Americans are unhealthy, obese, overweight, whatever. But the most leading cause of death in America is heart failure from eating bad food. So the most leading cause of death in America is from eating bad food. So nutrients by itself, eating, drinking, sleeping, chilling, all of that stuff by itself, it leads to the same path. The interesting part about it is when you combine the two, you grow. You grow. So our goal as people, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, even as family members, patriarchs, matriarchs of families, our goal is to continue to grow. But you need both. You need both. So remember this equation: stress plus nutrients equals growth. Now, if anybody or any botanist or they got green thumbs at home, I don't care what kind of green thumbs, you may have the other kind too. I ain't mad. You know this equation because there's a thing called overwatering your plants, right? What happens when you overwater your plants? What color do they turn? Yellow. You mean to tell me if I put too much good stuff in my plant, they don't like it? They turn yellow. You turn yellow. It's the same thing that happens to you. What about, does anybody know what happens when you put too much nutrients into your plants? Too much potassium, nitrogen? The edges of your plants burn. You literally set your plants on fire. You kill them. And here's an interesting part about the edges of those plants. They don't grow back. You got to cut them off. You got to cut the edges out. It's over. And you thinking you're doing a good thing because the direction said put a little bit of nutrients in. What if I put a lot? I mean, it should grow better. It should grow greener. No, because you need stress. You know where the plants get their stress from? The sun. The heat of the sun. You know what's dope about plants is that if you hold a plant up, if you put like the sticks next to it and you tie the plant around it to where it can lean on things, and it grows like that the whole time. If you take those sticks off when it gets big, it flops over. Why? Why? Because it needs the stress of the sun. The sun is what makes the stock strong, the stock meaty and heavy and Here we go. Here we go.
The whole cold game out
See,
here.
and I'm in the zone. I seen the look on Tone Vic's face. Man, come on, cuz.
Wow, that's crazy.
Come on, cuz. He just walked into this.
That's even crazier.
All right. Back to the analogy. Back to the analogy.
Oh gosh.
Online, you guys, y'all know what's up. You rocking with me. They like, carry on, Court. It's this class, man. Y'all be. So, Kai just started it. But the sun is what makes the stock strong, so it stands up on its own. So we're such just like those plants, and the adversity is what gives you the tools to defend yourself. I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit. So years ago, 20 years ago, when I was growing plants, and the thing about THC is THC, you guys get high from it, but really THC is the defense mechanism of the plant. That's how the plant protects itself from bugs, little animals. So if a bug tries to bite from that cannabis plant, it'll die because it gets such a strong dose of that it dies. So that's its protection mechanism. That plant's not for your enjoyment. It's to protect itself. It just happened somebody figured that out along the way. Now, here's the thing. When I used to grow that plant, right when it was time to harvest, you know what? I get a sharp knife and I stab the base of it. I stab it, I grub it, and I make it rough, and I grab it, and I tear it, and I would tear up the base of it, and it would think it was getting attacked by bugs, and it would give me more THC. More. Right before when it was time to harvest, because inherent in that plant is the tools that it needs. It's the tools that it needs to protect itself, to grow, to expand, to get strong. And the more you take good care of it, the bigger it grows. The more you nurture it, the better it gets. The more you feed it, the right balance of stress and nutrients is unlimited what that plant will give you. So understand, one by itself is detrimental, but two together in the right mix, the back and man, that's where growth happens, and growth can be unlimited. Understand that. So do not run from stress. Do not run from stress. Healthy stress is good. Stress plus nutrients is good. Some of the strengths that you've endured that you didn't necessarily have control over as a kid, don't wallow over those stresses either, because those stresses probably are doing you a service now because you've transformed them into something that makes you more powerful. But it's necessary. It's necessary. And I know a lot of you guys, especially us black folks, you've been in the corporate world for even a hot second, you realize how soft hella people are around you, and you like, shit, you ain't been through nothing. That bullshit is stressing you out. The copier is broke and you having a nervous breakdown. Stress is good. Next slide. We talked about context versus content. This is another big one, huge one, in terms of how we communicate to each other, how we communicate to our team, how we communicate to potential customers. Content versus context. Content means if you are focusing on the content, then you are stuck with the words. You're stuck with what they're saying. Here's why. Go to the next slide. The 87-55-8 rule. I might be slightly off in my calculations, but don't trip. It's similar. Now, if you look in terms of communication, what percentage of the communication is the words? Anybody want to guess? 8. Mm-hmm. So when you're communicating with people, 7 to 8% of the communication is just the words. It's just the words. Just the words. Think about that. We trip so hard, we thinking being a good listener is about repeating what people said. That's because you're stuck on the content. The context is the other 87 and 55. So the other one is your body language. Mm-hmm. The biggest number is your body language. The next one, the 55, is the tone at which you say it. So if you got a business and you're talking to your customer, you say, how was it? And they was like, it was cool. It wasn't cool. They not coming back. This shit was terrible. It was nasty. Look in that napkin next to their plate. The food is in there. That's and you'll argue with us and be like, we got customer surveys and they was all 4s. I don't know. That doesn't reflect in the revenue generation of your business. It don't reflect because it's not about who's buying. It's about who's coming back and who's referring you. So if you're not getting referrals or you're not getting repeat customers, but everyone says they love your product, there's a hole missing in the context of what they're saying. Listen for the content. If you're in sales, you have to be a context listener.
This is awesome. I have a question.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I got
you. Let's go.
So the way that I'm processing this is to say that, one, I'm processing that what you say and the tone at which you say it is still not equal to body language.
It doesn't even compare.
One. Two, what I'm also thinking about is how I knew that surveys, I had my thing about surveys, right, and doing them. But this is making me see them as an even less reliable measure of understanding how effective you are in whatever it is that you're doing, because this number is so extremely low. Then the value of what someone is saying to me in my mind just dropped even more. Mm-hmm. And so I guess, and maybe I'm taking this where you weren't exactly going, but now I'm thinking about observational learning and how this applies to observational learning, because observational learning isn't always the best. So how would you equate that? Sorry, I just went on a Shabisha tangent, but how would you equate?
No, go ahead.
How would you equate this to observational learning? So if what I'm observing, if I'm looking at that, which is just content, I don't have context for it, but I'm also understanding that 87% of what is happening, I would have to be observing?
Absolutely. So here's why. Here's where it also applies.
Okay.
So this is an excellent question, and that is, you also have to rely on science with a grain of salt too, because all those controlled experiments and those experiments that they've done, you don't have the luxury of the context. So if they had 100 kids to come in and they tried an experiment on 100 kids, who were the kids? Were they all college kids? Did you pay them? Were you paying them to do it? Were they trying to get in and out? Were they starving kids? Were they hungry college kids? Were they privileged college kids? Your data is always going to be skewed based on the context. Mm-hmm. So absolutely yes. That's why surveys kind of whack depending on if you do it a certain way. If you got excellent context, even in think about this 87-55-8 rule. Even in the way you ask the question, it could skew the answer. So, and I've watched 510 Media do it a few years back, and being very careful in how you craft the question, in order for you to get the true answer, the true feeling. If I say, how'd you enjoy it? See how I went up at the end? Mm-hmm. That means I want you to say you enjoyed it. And I you caught that. You good girl. Presupposition. So I added a presupposition in there that already made them one step in to say they enjoyed it. There's so many word tricks that you can use to get, and you don't even realize it, but your own confirmation bias makes you lean a certain way, and you don't even realize that you're forcing the person you're asking to lean that way too. That's why shit is so important. So, absolutely yes, to answer your question. Tone Vic.
Where does non-communication come in? Like when you don't hear anything, where does that come into play at?
Great question. So that's why they say the opposite of love is not hate. What is it?
Indifference.
It's indifference. It's a void. It's empty. It's nothing. That means, what feels worse? Shakina, I hate you. Or, Shakina, I don't give a fuck about you. You feel me? Like, that stings harder. Like, did you watch? No, I didn't. Why didn't you watch? Because I don't care. So understand this: when you get no feedback, that's feedback. That's crazy amounts of feedback.
But more than the just I don't care, but silence. Just you don't hear nothing. So let's say recently I was working with someone and we were trying to get some feedback, and
post doing the job.
Still during.
Oh, during.
Yeah, and I just wasn't getting no emails, no texts, no phone calls, nothing. So of course, my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are we not doing a good job? I mean, I went everywhere with it. Then it went to like frustration, like this is not right. Communication is not professional. Blah 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 blah. But hearing this, I don't even know the context, or I don't know the content because I'm not hearing anything. So it's like, where does not hearing anything, no verbal communication, where does that play?
Where is it now?
Oh no, we still. I mean, what's funny is today got an email and I was like, "This is what I'm talking about. That's what's up. Oh, this is dope."
Yeah.
But it took, but I don't want to take a whole long story, but it took a long time to finally get some communication, and then there was some like apologies, whatever, blah 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 blah. But there was still some like, yeah. But
I would say this, Tone Vic, it's that's why I needed more context, because doing this long enough, entrepreneuring for 20 years, I never underestimate what could go wrong in between communication. So I don't make any assumptions. Anything could happen. Anything could happen personally, emotionally, professionally. Power dynamics could change within the company. This person now in control and that person's not. Like there's so many dynamics that can happen. That's actually what happens. See? So that's why I don't make any assumptions. So I tend not to get more aggressive in my emails because now you're making assumptions based on an imaginary story you're telling yourself. I tend to have empathy in those situations. So when they do come around, they're more like, man, thank you for being patient, reaching out. That's my bad. So that's a different issue. If they just cut you off altogether and dipped, never came back, listen, A, that's not good, but B, I would still search. I would still go. Even if you guys ever applied for a job or pitched to an investor and the answer was no, I would go back and try to get more context. Hey, you already said no, so I ain't got nothing to lose, right? Yeah. Cool. So can we have a real conversation? Why didn't you do it? And what would have made you do it? Not that I want to now, but I'm saying I want to get that info just for the next time. So when I meet another you, I want to be ready. Man, you know how much game they'll give you? Mm-hmm. Shit. Here, this is why. Are we being candid? Are we being for real? Okay, this is why. Mm-hmm. Content versus context is probably, if I say your entrepreneur toolbox is top 5. It's somewhere in your top 5. Mm-hmm. Without that, you're an assumption-making machine, and you're only listening to words if you're listening at all, and you're wrong. You end up wrong all the time in your assumptions after you calculate what you're gonna say. Who had a question?
I was watching an episode of Shark Tank recently, and the person was fresh out of college. She had a packaged good that she was trying to get them to invest in, and she lived in New York, and her sales were like under 40,000, like right under 40,000. Mm-hmm. And Barbara Corcoran said to her, how are you surviving in New York if that's your sales? She said, well, my father is paying my rent. And Barbara told her, essentially, the fact that your father is paying your rent means that success is an option for you, right? Because you have somebody covering your baseline.
That's what the fuck I'm talking.
And
Dude, don't smack your teeth, bro.
Her back, her back is not. Her back essentially is not against the wall, and so she's not looking to invest because she had questions about how hungry she was going to be. With regard to what you're saying here, first of all, when Barbara said, I'm like, Barbara, that's cap. But because if that's the case, none of your kids would accomplish anything either. They're privileged. But my thought with regard to what you're saying here is she's not supposed to come to the investor conversation with her stress showing. You don't make that context in what you give, because just like no one wants to invest in someone who has nothing to lose, no one wants to invest in somebody that's like, I'm going to die if you don't give it to me. Yeah,
that's different. So let's go back. Yeah, you brought up 3 great points, right? First, let's go back to the slide before this. Keep going. One more. Number 2, what's that say? What's number 2 say?
Stress plus new streams.
Come on, bud. She's right. She's 100% right. She's 100% right. She's 100% right. Now, if depending on how she introduces healthy stress to her kids, you have a valid point. But she's talking about her. You have to have stress in order to grow. If she doesn't have that stress, she can't grow. So a lot of the entrepreneurs that's in this room right now that have grown their business, we all have these blue sky stories in our head about how we gonna blow up as soon as we touch down. As soon as we touch on this earth, the flowers below us is just gonna grow out money plants. Then reality hits us. We get punched in the fucking face, right?
With dust.
We got 2 choices. Quit, figure it out. if we decide to figure it out, in comes the stress because we still got to live. Some of us got kids. And now we're at night. You ain't scrolling on Instagram. You like, okay, what am I gonna do? What kind of ideas am I gonna come up with? Oh no, that's not it. I can't do it. That's what you're thinking about. Marquita, am I lying?
No, but I got a question.
All right. So okay, I'm gonna give her the mic, and then when I'm done with this, so that's why that woman needs stress. Maybe you need to downsize. Maybe you need to get a roommate, or maybe your ass needs to move back in with your parents so you can feel the stress of just being irritated by them, so that you can hurry up and get your shit together and get out. But you need stress. You need it, and if you don't have it, you won't win. That is, and my last point is, that is also why entrepreneurs plus folks who have great jobs, it's hard for their businesses to expand out, because you got this cushion here at all times. You got this cushion at all times.
You won't know until you go through it.
And until you go through it,
you won't understand
it's hard to understand it.
Trust me.
That's why a lot of the entrepreneurs have gone through this class who've had great jobs, but couldn't figure out why their business wasn't. It's an invisible thing called stress. That if you don't engage in it, it's hard. You can't even see.
You can't imagine your possibilities.
Yeah.
That's because for you, what you're saying is that you can imagine. For example, if they threw me in prison, I don't know who I'll become. I can guess what I could become, but I don't really know what level I would go to. Right? Like that Jim Jones story I told. Right? Those people. If you were to ask those people maybe 10 years ago, would you kill yourself and drink poison in the name of an idea? No, it's no way in the world. When you say that, you're assuming that no matter what scenario you're in, you can predict in this current state who you would become. And what we're trying to tell you is that there's a level of creativity, ingenuity, and drive that you don't have access to until you put in a position of danger. And when your back is against that danger, it will blow your mind on who you can become.
And here's an example, and I'll give you the mic. Do you guys remember last class? It was a little complicated, but it was talking about testosterone plus adrenal glands. Testosterone plus adrenal glands. Mm-hmm. Adrenal glands only fire when what? Your adrenaline is pumping. So if your adrenaline is always pumping, your body is meant to survive. So it's saying, we got to make you tougher to prepare because you out here doing some crazy shit, right? So we gave the example of the pink farm pig. The pink farm pig that lives on the farm is pink. It's cute, it's pink, fat, it's cute, everybody loves it. But if you throw that pig in the wild, 3 or 4 months later, that pig is covered in hair and it has tusk. It doesn't even know it's going to turn into that pig, ever. It don't even know that that's going to happen. But because of the stress that is caused by the new environment, it changes into something else. So what I'm saying is, all of us who've been indoctrinated in the corporate world, we don't even know that we pink pigs. We don't even know there's another color or another style or tusk or hair or nothing. It's when you jump off that cliff or you quit that job, the stress will change you and force you to be like, oh shit, I didn't know I'm becoming this person. And next thing you know, you become more of what you need to be successful. So you don't even know what you don't know.
First of all, thank y'all for that answer. Can I just invite one other perspective into the conversation?
Please.
Sometimes I listen to the How I Built This podcast, and I noticed that, like, the first 2 examples that come to my mind is, I think it's called the Sukis. It's the Indian foods, packaged foods, and Spanx, right? But I think of all these stories of white founders who they're not building from scratching and surviving. I can't help but feel like we promote that to black people, that you got to scratch and survive and come from nothing and under a rock, and all I had was $2 in my bank account. The father paying her rent so that she's not worried about the roof over her head doesn't mean she doesn't have the stress of feedback, marketing, how you're going to get in stores, what all the things that comes with that. It just means I'm not under the threat of homelessness every day. So why do we feel like we have to be working from, I don't know how I'm gonna eat tomorrow in order to be effective? There are other stressors to have where I'll still meet number 2, but I'm not worried about where I'm asleep.
Great perspective. I appreciate that perspective. So you know the Spank story. But here's thing number 1. We ain't white people. We not. We're in the lowest category in society. So most of us are living like that. $2, $5, how I'm going to survive. Most of us, our psychology is so damaged that we have good jobs and we still living check to check. We making 150, 200K a year and still in struggle mode, survival mode, because it's not about the money. It's about the psychology. It's about the understanding that we need healthy stress in our life. So white people have come from a whole different instruction manual set that we don't get the luxury of coming from. We was whooped as kids. We suffered a different kind of abuse, and our DNA goes back to slavery. So we don't have the luxury to play in the same sandbox as those other cultures. We got ours. And ours is, if we have been in a culture for 400 years or so, where we've been subsidized by the government, by society, where I cannot work, my big ass 6'2", 220 pounds cannot work, and I can go downtown and go get some food stamps anytime I want. Or somebody can have a few kids and get all the food stamps they need, get lobster and crab in the refrigerator. That's the culture that has been indoctrinated in us for years. That what we're saying here in this class is we got to reprogram our minds to undo that, because in other cultures that's already embedded in them. So that's the invisible thing that you don't see in the podcast. That's exactly the invisible stuff that you can't listen to when you're listening to that class. So somebody who's changed their psychology, they'll probably say, no, I don't want to be subsidized. I don't want that, because I want to feel the pain. I want to feel the uncomfortableness of the situation in order for me to boost myself to go make it happen. It was Shabisha next. Shabisha next.
Just a comment. You all know that I got very curious about entrepreneurs early stage, like 3 years ago. So I started studying them and reading a lot about them. And I started reading a lot about the stories that people tell. One of the podcasts that made me the most angry was How I Made This. And the reason is because it sanitizes a lot of those entrepreneurs. You have a limited amount of time. And what I found is that it was sanitizing their journeys. And if you follow those same people into other podcasts where people are asking them different questions, and you start to hear what they start to say in other spaces, then you get a more comprehensive understanding of what their journey was like. And so I would call Nana really frustrated often and rant about how for black folks, we were getting sold whipped cream.
Yeah.
And when it didn't happen that way, then we were either feeling like either the system didn't work, or there was something inherently flawed about us. But we certainly weren't getting a comprehensive understanding of what it would be like from people that we trusted to tell us the truth. And so it's the same thing goes with equity investment, in the way that we oversell something that's only ever been 5% of dollars going out. But we feel like we're not getting a fair shake when nobody really gets a whole lot of equity investment. 95% of this company bootstraps their business. Is a very small percentage. But we over-focus on that and we under-focus on how to build. That, for me, is a part of how we are underserved, because we are sold Disneyland, when the actual story, there's nothing wrong with it. And so I wanted to share that. Sarah Blakely's story, I followed it. I read a lot about her. I wanted to understand. The one thing I will say about her, and I'm going to stop talking, is she did one business. I read people who have done it multiple times because I want to understand what they've learned over time. There's so much luck in the business. But also, Sarah Blakely got fired a lot before, so there was a lot that was going on in her situation that wasn't ideal. And so I'm simply saying that oftentimes, especially as Black founders, we go into these accelerators and incubators, and what I have observed after sitting around them is nobody's really telling people the truth. And they out of fear of hurting people's feelings. And I have been advocating that I actually think people can handle the truth, and they would much rather that than you send them out half-cocked. So I just wanted to put that out there as like I have done that on purpose because I wanted to understand, and I did just want to kind of share some insight. And I will say that How I Made This is one of my least favorite podcasts because it's fairy tale. It feels good though, right? It's inspirational, but it's like listening to a motivational speaker versus actually talking to people and reading people who have done it multiple times to understand where the ebbs and flows are. So,
Thank you. Great input. Josh, last one, and we'll move on.
Yeah. So, Kaja, I actually disagree with your perspective. So I began taking this class when I had a really fucking awesome job that I loved. That was like my dream job, and I thought I could become an entrepreneur. And Nana, I think, would attest to the idea that I think I'm right a lot. And
Not just Nana, shit,
yeah.
the whole class.
I mean, but he and I have a history of just going back and forth with this conversation. Before you existed, it was Shakina, then it became me, and then it became you.
Marquita, you can chime in on that too.
Yeah. nah. Marquita and I, ex-enemies. But lovers and haters are the same thing, as long as they're not apathetic. All right. But one thing I'll say is that when your bank account goes below $100, you won't believe how much time in the world, how much you can do within a small amount of time. Like when you are really pressed against it and you don't think when everything is saying you can't do it, you'd be surprised on how much you could fit in, and you'd be surprised on how open you are to different ideas and pricing. That you might say your services are worth this much, but when you have $3, your services, the cost of that changes. So it's like what that woman was telling to the other person, I think, is that you've never truly been tested to know what you would do or know how you work. So when you really hit the bottom, that's when you know who you are. That's when you know how you can do things, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, this is juicy. This is juicy. I like it. He's still hating. He's still hating.
yeah, right? It feel a little spicy, right?
You did cut the mic off. I turned it on.
Okay.
I did turn it on. I guess I really would like to get some clarity on the concept of stress, because it's always uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's always unpredictable. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that. However, you can only handle so much. When you're in the stress, your bandwidth is taxed, right? Mm-hmm. So you're fighting to get out of that so that you can get creative and you can get back to being curious. Mm-hmm. So am I understanding when we talk about searching for stress that it's kind of like peaks and valleys, because we don't want to constantly be operating in stress, right?
Absolutely. So that's why it's stress plus nutrients. The nutrients is like, oh, cool. Okay, this is good. All right, I feel it. I'm eating. I got meal. I got some money. It's calm right now, right? That's the nutrients part. The stress part is the part that makes you stronger. Again, if you take the nutrients off, stress by itself equals death. You know, I talked about chopping a plant, giving it stress, giving me more. If I chop the plant off, I kill it. So too much stress is death. Too much nutrients is death. So it's a balance. So here's the other piece is we all have been to our limits of our stress today, right? Wherever the limits of our perceived stress, we know where they are. We got sayings for that. Black women, you getting on my last. That means there's one more nerve left. You got one more nerve left. So I don't know how many you had before, but you down to the last one, right? So that means we all got to stay away so that she can build up more nerve so you can get on her nerves some more later. So we've all broke past that stress level where we like, this is crazy. And whatever we did, whether it was break down, cry, cuss somebody out, scream, whatever, withdraw, whatever your fight, flight, or freeze response is in those situations, we all been there and we know it. So the goal is, how can I continue to put healthy stress in my life so I can handle more? Because entrepreneurship,
oh boy,
it's a cold motherfucking thing, and you don't know what it's gonna look like. So you have to be building at all times because things can hit you. Your building can burn down. Anything can happen. Somebody can take a piss in your parking lot.
okay.
Or worse.
Getting a little weird there.
Or worse. You see what I'm saying? Look, go ahead. It's on you, and then you can go.
How do you tell the difference between healthy stress and not raising your blood pressure or affecting like your health? Like, how do you draw the line on your stress level? Like, how can you see that?
Okay,
Go ahead. Take.
Oh, let me just jump in a little bit, but I want you to finish it because I just want to just tap into this. Remember emotional contagion. Like, so your emotions are contagious. Other people's emotions are contagious. You pick up other people's stress limits, and you pick up other people's stress. And so if everybody around you snap really easy, so will you. The language we choose changes the measuring point of the breaking point, right? Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves, which are not true, makes the stress 10 times worse. If you don't develop a healthy relationship with stress, that's why the reason I work out 6 days a week is for self-mastery. Self-mastery allows me to build a healthy relationship with stress and be able to even reframe, change the story, and leave the thought isolated, to not allow myself to, because a lot of times your stress is based upon assumptions. Like, for example, you ever get in an argument with somebody and you say, well, when I did this, you didn't do that. That's an assumption. You had an equation that if I do A and you don't do E, that equates end of our relationship. What that person does never had an E in their whole perception, right? That's just you projecting and creating your own stress. So a lot of stress. So what I heard when I heard Marquita speak is I smiled. What I said in my head was good. She's at that stage. I went to that exact same stage where my corporate stress comfort zone, when I came out here in the entrepreneur world, I was crawling up in the corner, holding my stomach. And one day my brain said, why are you fucking stressed out like this? You stressed because you started this shit. This is some shit you wanted. But until that point, there was days where I'm taking like aspirin because I'm so getting headaches from my stress, right? That's because my stress tolerance was very low because I wasn't developing it. So that's why we say, as we keep telling you guys, work out. We keep telling you guys, build a healthy relationship with stress. And then you corporate folks, not all, but some corporate folks want to come out here and keep the same routines they had in corporate America, and they're gonna start breaking down. But that's not because stress broke you broke yourself.
Dope. Last question, and we moving on.
It wasn't a question. I just wanted to share something, if that's okay. So, to what you were saying, Kaja, being somebody that like had multiple jobs and was trying to run multiple businesses, I was a hot mess. And And something to what Marquita was saying. So the way that I simplify it with like all of the years of conversations that Nana has had with me, that I have had the honor of being his little sidekick, is that it's a paradigm shift when you are in the corporate world and when you're an entrepreneur, because you have to think differently and you play by different rules. And even when you're trying to have 1 foot above the line and below the line, you can't be in both. So you're going to be blinded to things that you just can't see until you transition. And to the point of stress, everyone in here has tried something, and everyone in here has failed and tried again. The things that stressed us the first few times we tried would make us laugh now. So for the people that are trying to contextualize stress, you're only able to wrap your head around it based on your current exposure. And the more that you expose yourself to it, the stronger you get, just like you work a muscle. You walk, you get better endurance. You work out, you build a bigger muscle. You read, you get bigger language and vocabulary. You can read for longer times. As an entrepreneur, stress is the same thing. So what might feel like it's going to take you out right now, in 5 years, you're going to be like, yeah, man, let me tell you, these are 5 options that you might want to look at. But the relationship built with stress, whether it's acute, whether it's long-term, whether it's big or small, every time you put in the reps, you get better, you get stronger, you can handle more, and you can also learn how to see it before it comes, so then you can manage it as opposed to being a victim of it. Because some things you need to go through. It's like the fire that you got to go through to get to gold. And so I think oftentimes, even as entrepreneurs, particularly when we're coming from jobs or serial business owners trying to run multiple things, is that we want to get to the end part. We want to get to the shiny nugget or the diamond without going through the pressure, which is what makes that commodity rare and valuable. And so stress is the beauty and the evolution, like the metamorphosis of the butterfly, of the caterpillar is all weak and fragile, and it goes into this cocoon and it isolates and it's stressed out, and then it comes out into this beautiful thing. That's what stress is to humans. We have to grow. We have to hurt ourselves. We have to learn things. And the more that we run towards stress, the more we learn what are smart ways of doing it, and the stronger we get at it.
All right. Any more? That was juicy. It was good. That was good.
Hit a wound, bro.
That was good.
Hit a wound.
What'd you say?
So you hit a wound. That
was good.
I think for a lot of our people, that's a solid
That was
wound.
good.
And thank you for giving the time to it, bro.
Yeah. I'm only in slide 2, and I'm already halfway in. But this was so important, though. I'll say this: what I love about my team at Courtsmith is we're at 20 employees now, and I don't necessarily talk numbers with them. Like, this is what we're doing this month. This is what we're doing this year. I stopped doing it a long time ago because I noticed it would stress them. Every year, when it gets to about March and April, somebody has a nervous breakdown. Somebody cries. It always happens. Every March, April-ish, between 1 and 4 people have a breakdown. So busy this. And the next year, the thing is, we double in size, we double in revenue and in size every year. And I watch them have less breakdowns every year, less breakdowns every year, less breakdowns. And they don't necessarily even know what the numbers or how busy they are, but they don't realize they're getting stronger. And I'm like, that's dope. And so I'll watch it and I'll see like the tears welling up in the eyes, and they're like, I'm not going to do it because I think that, I don't want to do what I did last year, not realizing that we're at 3 times the capacity the last time they cried. And I'm like, man, that's hella dope. Go ahead, let that shit come down because it's dope anyway. It's dope because the stress we introduce, you don't even realize you're getting stronger, because as long as you don't run, I'm going to keep throwing it at you, and I'm not going to feel sorry for you. What we're going to do is say, hey, what can we learn from this? How can we get better? Our feelings don't matter right now. The customer is most important. How can we serve them? All the he say, she say, here's a trash, throw it in the garbage. And it's like, but we're so stressed. Yeah, we are. I am too. How can we get to the next move? How can we make it happen? And as insensitive as I sound sometimes, they're getting so much stronger. And that's what this game is about. And that's what it's about for you. Because who do you guys have to turn to as a boss, as a leader, as a CEO of your company? Who can you turn to for help? They ain't nobody. So you have to be the one that holds the capacity for anything, for it all. And because if you break and you crumble,
That's bad. That's
it's a wrap.
a problem.
You can't walk in there defeated, then everybody's defeated. So you have to be able to hold space for everything. We know as entrepreneurs, we walked into our offices and it's $3 in our bank account, walking around holding space, trying to make it happen. Payrolls in 2 days. Hey, go get them accounts receivables. Call all them old customers and make them motherfuckers pay. They owe us. Right? Like, you don't, if you getting subsidized all the time, you never feel that energy. So it is, here's the thing, and hey, ladies and gentlemen, all the ones online, if this is our last class, I get it. But stress is mandatory for your success. If you don't have no stress, you ain't making it. And there ain't no way around it. So if you scared of stress, stop being an entrepreneur. If you want shit to be easy, chill, and just ride the wave, this ain't for you. It is absolutely not. If you ain't never listened to nothing that I've ever said, listen today. I've been doing this shit, entrepreneurship shit, for 2 decades. And I've been around millionaires and billionaires for the last 20 years, and ain't nobody got a story. Not one of my entrepreneur colleagues have a story where they rode the wave and they quit the job and it was like surfing. They quit their job and they got on the wave of entrepreneur success and they just rode on to their millions and billions. It was always a crash every fucking time. It wasn't not one time where it wasn't a crash. Or a come to Jesus moment. Or I hit the hype cycle when I first started and it was good and I crashed and I had to show who I was and I had to crawl back. It's never not one time. Bring me somebody. You bring me somebody, I give you $500 straight up.
Oh man, I'm finding somebody right now. My lying ass cousin about to be up in here.
I'll make it up. My cousin, show him your bank account. Nah, that's your bank account. Stop playing. He scratched out Nana on the Bank of America and put his partner's name. All right, let's get into the next slide. Let's start the class. Let's start the class. That was needed, though. I love it.
Yeah, that was tight.
Fire as fuck.
Yeah, that was solid.
All right. So I was going to have more time to talk about this. But instead, I'm just going to touch on it, and we can go over this next week. So this what's dope about this, though, is that it completely applies to what we just talked about. So this is called the ascension of effectiveness. It's a pyramid, and what it is how humans are effective based on those 5 elements, how we move as humans, how we function as humans, how you function as a human. So we'll start from the bottom, and I'll go up to the top, and just know that next week I'll just dive into small pieces of these until we get it. But understand, all of this is embedded in how we function, how we are effective as humans. So the bottom layer of who you are starts with motivation. So if you ain't, write this down. So the bottom layer of who you are starts with motivation. As humans, to get you to do anything, you need motivation. That's why back in the day, thousands of years, there's always a slave class. The reason why there's always a slave class, because there's a stick that somebody can swing at a slave class and make them do something. Motivation a lot of times comes from pain. Motivation. So if you have a job and you built your life around your job and your bills are $10,000 a month and your job pays you $10,000 a month and you're motivated to have to go to work. You have to. You ain't got a choice. Right? If your lifestyle was you had 0 bills a month and you made 10,000, let the boss say something crazy to you. What you say to me? You got the freedom. You don't have the same type of motivation. So motivation comes at the bottom level of who you are. So a lot of times as humans, motivation is a trigger for us. We need it. Absolutely need it. Scientists show that if you remove motivation, you enter depression. That's where suicide comes into place, because you no longer have a motivation to be around. No longer have a motivation to live. So with that baseline trigger of who you are, that's how motivational speakers whoop your ass, because they tap into that need that you have, a motivation, and they'll wrap all of success inside the motivational filter. So like, what do you want to be? I want to be a motivational speaker. Will motivate them to do what? Because the only thing a motivational speaker can do is motivate you to move up to the next level, and that's it. They can only motivate you technically to move up one space, because motivation is the base layer. Now, so am I saying, oh, we got to get to one and disregard for? No, we need all of them, because that's how a pyramid is built. Think about it. If I'm a football team and I'm playing against an equally skilled football team, but before the game, we playing trap music, we bumping heads against each other, we getting hyped, we singing mantras, all eyes on me, all eyes on three, and everybody sounding off at the same time, and everybody getting super juiced. You ready to kill somebody, because that's what motivation can do. Versus another team that's equally capable as you, but they all just stoic. That's the difference in the outcome of the game. So mind you, you're going to need motivation. Players need different types of motivation. Some it's music, some it's reading things, some is whatever it is. Motivation is necessary. Other people's motivation is they'll have, in terms of athletes, they'll have their kids, a picture of their daughter, a picture of somebody they love. That's why a lot of times in the corporate world, they got pictures of people that they love on their desk. Why? Because I hate this fucking job and I'm ready to quit. So let me look at my family members to keep my ass here. That's my motivation to stay. Come on, cuz. I used to be in all kind of shit growing up. I tattooed my son's names on my wrist, so when I reach to go do some dumb shit, I see their name. My motivation. I used it as motivate. People use all kind of things for motivation. All kind of things of motivation. Now that talks about motivation. His daughter is the one that keeps him in the gym. I want to be there for her when she's older. I want to be able to do all the things, walk her down the aisle, whatever it is. That's called motivation. Not to be demonized, but it also is to be put in its proper perspective now. So if you get overly hyped on motivation, then you're missing the whole rest of those elements in how you move. And questions on that? Next one, inspiration. Motivation and inspiration, they seem kind of similar, right? But they're different. Motivation comes from more of a carrot, more of a stick. Motivated. You're motivated by something. It comes from a negative. Inspiration comes from a positive. That's why your religious beliefs are inside inspiration. Inspiration, the word itself is in spirit, right? So you're inspired. Somebody telling their compelling story inspired you to go. You got a big dream or a goal, that's inspiring to you. The idea of you and be able to make big things happen is inspiring. Being inspired is also in our nature. But some people, they walk around just inspired. I can make it just on being inspired. Show me where. Okay, I can be motivated and inspired and make it. Show me where. Where? Do it. That's why you'll go to a seminar, a motivational seminar. They got you amped. You jumping up and down. You singing on. You so juiced. You think you can take over the world. You get in your car. You still juiced. You get home. The reality starts setting in, and then you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with this? How do I do it? I just paid $399.99 to get high for 24 hours or sometimes more. I didn't pay stupid amounts of money. That's because most people don't know that this even exists or this is even a thing. Because the dopamine hits that you get by motivation and inspiration alone is so overwhelming that you damn near think you can take over the world. You really believe you could do it. Again, inspiration is necessary. It's a necessary part of who you are. But it's only step 4. Remember that. Those two are also the reason why we post the books of the books we reading in this class. And we say, we ain't trying to be nobody's guru. We trying to be your peer. We want to work with you. We want to raise you to the level that we own so that we can do this together. I'm not no moral leader. Like, I got all kind of fucking skeletons in my closet. And so I don't claim to be. It's not an elevate because this is that real shit. This is not inspiration, motivation. That's why we hate when people quoting the books and the lingo and the hope lingo and they ain't doing shit. Man, shut that shit down. Well, that was cognitive dissonance and distortion and that's this and that. Yeah, you read the books and you know the words and you was inspired by it, but what are you doing in your business? Show me your failures. Show me what you tried. Show me what didn't work. Show me what's working. Yo, that's that shit that, you know what that does to us? It makes us inspired. Oh, that's what I was waiting for. Okay, I can keep doing this. Number 3, skill. So, skill is wherever you are in your world, whether you're a trainer, a photographer, a media company, catering company, whatever your business is. Skill is the next one up. Now, most people in the corporate world stay between 3 and 5. Middle, first line management, FLM, what they call it, on down. Is you stay in that space of, I'm going to learn my skill, I'm going to learn my job well, so that I'm unreplaceable and unfireable, and I have my inspiration and my motivation. And that's what keeps them at their job for 9, 10, 20, 15, 30 years, whatever that amount is. And the goal is to continue to get better at the skill part, because the skill part, skill plus inspiration plus motivation equals raise. And so that's where you're going. You're trying to get raises. And here's the thing. Once you get high in skills, that's when people start getting the idea of wanting to be an entrepreneur. I'm killing it here. What if I did my own business? I'm sure I'm killing it here. I could start my own business. I could start my own business. I'm hella good. And I went to a motivational course, and it gave me the motivation to be able to do it. Not realizing that you don't have the full context of what entrepreneurship or business is. You just grow your skill. Now, here's the deal. Some people can jump off the corporate world and start their own business if they're high enough level skill. Say you're a master chef at another restaurant, master chef, and you peel off and start your own restaurant. Now, lines is now out the door and around the corner for your business. Dope, right? And you think, I'm just going to become a better cook? I'm going to become a better cook? Can you scale that business? If you just have skill, inspiration, and motivation, can you scale that? No. What if you want to open a second or third or fourth location? Can you scale? Can you franchise your business? Even if you're at the highest level of skill, can you franchise your business? No. Because you know what? You got to start thinking. You have to start thinking at that point. So that's why skill ain't enough. Once you get to scaling or franchising, because if you're a photographer and you work for, even if you raised your rates to $1,000 an hour, you can still only work so many hours. Doesn't matter if it's only you. Once you start trying to move beyond you and be like, okay, I can only pack so many jellies by myself per hour. And I'm hella good. I got super good. I'm at highest level of skill that I can be. It's not enough. And some of us think, but I'm a dope designer. I'm a dope rapper. I'm the best. I'm the best designer out there. The entrepreneurial game don't care if you don't got the next level of that. That's that's strategy. So is skill necessary? Absolutely. But you're still limited. Now you need strategy. What am I doing? Where am I going? How can I expand this? Now you need to use E-Myth strategies and think. Now below that strategy line, you need a little bit of thinking, a lot of kinesthetics, meaning once you learn a repetition and get good at something, you start the momentum of getting better. The bottom two is just, But once you move above that 3 line, now you got to start thinking. And if you can't think, it'll be hard for you to understand why you can't grow your business, why you can't expand your business, why you can't get a raise, why you can't get that management position at your job.
That's real true.
Now, once you get into strategy, that line between skill and strategy is a thick line. It's a thick line. I've bumped my head up against that skill line for so many years. Oh man, not realizing, not knowing what the two were above me. Once you break through, game changes. Now you don't mind not taking a salary and paying somebody else because you got a strategy. You don't mind it. For a year, 2 years, 3 years, you don't mind it because you got strategy. So again, strategy is excellent, but at scale, strategy also has its limitations. And that is, how do you know how to pivot from your strategy if you don't have data? We talked about it earlier. What kind of data are you reading? What's the context of the data, the content of the data? If you don't have data, if you don't know how to look at data and gather data, then you're driving down a road that you think you've been before at night with no lights on. Mm-hmm. And then if you crash, you don't even know what happened. So Data is at the tip. Now, okay, nobody said nothing.
Hey, you know, we trust me, bro. I could have paused you about 12 times. Just keep going.
Data is at the top of the pyramid. Data is at the top of the pyramid. So again, the intellectuals don't get caught up thinking, I'm just going to be data by itself. No, it's what is your capacity? Can you operate at all 5 stages of this? All 5 stages of this. Can you maneuver up and down at all 5 stages? There are times where life is going to whoop your ass so bad that you ain't even thinking about the top 4. You just need motivation to get out of bed that day as an entrepreneur. And that's when you're going to need it. So all 5 of these are necessary. The point is understanding that they exist and you need all of them in succession. And that you can't have, if you want to grow and scale your business, you can't have one without the other. You can't have one without any of them. Any questions before we move on that?
Online, there's a question, at which point in the ascension of effectiveness, at which of those points do we start to do we start attempting to build a team?
There's not, and I can't give you a particular point, but I can say that if you dive off or you decide you want to become entrepreneurial or build a business, because everyone's business is different. So most of the time you start with yourself, right? You start with you. And when you guys remember the 3, time, attention, money, 3 most important is time, attention, money. So if you ain't making no money and you haven't even had a certified product yet, and you haven't built anything, and you haven't built any customer base or any momentum, you think you should be thinking about hiring somebody? Probably not, right? You have to build on your own and generate the skills to build a small model of what you want, right? But at a certain point, you're going to be bumping up against time. I can only work so many hours in a day. So from a strategic perspective, it's probably smart for me to divide my resources and hire somebody, get some help. Take some of this revenue that I'm making from here and allocate it here, which will give me more time to strategize about how to scale more. So now I can do a little bit of the skill work, but now I got the rest of the time to do strategy work. Go get clients, go find new customers, or go things of that nature. So it, over time, you'll feel it. When I started Courtsmith by myself, soon I realized I need a salesperson. I can't pay you though. Let's do commission. Cool. Bam, we rocking. Over time, damn, Court, you hella raggedy with the time and the being on time and the meetings and shit. I need an admin. I need help. Hey, what can I get for $500 a month? I think I was making $500 a month. Take my money. First year Courtsmith, we made $40K, right? Probably all $40K went to them 2 people. Because I see the momentum building, I need to step back and think and build strategy. What can I do? How can I scale? How can I move? So it's not a prescription to give. It's over time you get to see where your time is more valuable on the strategy space. Thinking is always more important than skill. Last thing I'll say is I remember having to talk with Nana about it, and I prided myself in being the dopest designer. Ain't nobody fucking with me on the designs. Who's designing your stuff? Me. Shit. Well, you got to get somebody to do my designs? No. That will get you stuck forever. Step back, even if they're not as dope as you. It'll still free you up to 80% of your time to go back and do more strategy, context. Guess what? My team uniform designer is better than me now. And that's what happens.
That's dope.
I used to be like, I want Court. No, I only want Court to design my stuff. Now they be like, yo, so is Martin gonna be designing my stuff? That's how we want it. So it's not a specific rule, but it's a. All right, so we'll continue this next week. We'll make it past slide 3 next week. But this was a dope ass class, so. All right.
Okay. Yo, that was dope. That was real dope. Whoops. Okay, just a tape. I might make the cameraman mad. I think this is that chair that drops too. Huh? Yeah, I think this is a chair that drops. Anyway,
It is a chair that drops. It was dropping on me all
yeah, it was dropping on you. Yeah. Guys, can we just throw the chair in the garbage? Just trash it. I don't ever want to see this chair again. Especially I'm not even that tall. I can't afford to be getting shorter. That's a deficit. That's a deficit. I don't work in deficits. Real quick for those online, a lot of folks. First of all, I want to say those who've given donations, thank you. Extremely say thank you. This class, we take the donations and invest in enhancing how we show up. So, please continue to give. And like I said, if you just give $10, $5, $25, $50, $1 million, whatever you want to give, But make sure just, give. And if you can't give, because you're in that stage where you're a new entrepreneur and money is really short, you paying your $40,000 to everybody besides you, then, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. So with that being said, got a lot to cover today. Go to my first slide, if you don't mind. Yeah, that's kind of smooth, see? Consciousness. That's not my first slide. Oh my Lord, dear Jesus. No, that's not my first slide.
Keep going. Right there. Back.
Go back.
That one.
Okay. She was supposed to bring. This is not a slide before that? Okay, so switch chairs. Thank you, brother, man. That's why I love my brothers around here. Thank you, brother, man. Appreciate that. Josiah, no more jokes for next 15 minutes. So I appreciate you, Josiah. Appreciate you. There was a slide from last week. Do you remember the slide from last week about the opening slide around? It was the opening slide around.
It's slide 7 or maybe slide 8.
It was about the press secretary. Thrive.
Oh, no. Nope.
There are no hard edges between people. The leader is the press secretary and the responsibility.
It thrives in an environment. Okay, there was a comment. I'll go ahead and explain it. So first things first, I want to say something real quick. So I was at the gym today, and first I started off with a conversation with Court this morning, and Court was saying, "Hey man, the other day I went to the gym, and I just really didn't, I was sleepy and I was tired." He goes, and it's one of the best. I was one of his best workouts ever. He was super strong, lifted he was able to lift more iron than he was able to lift any other day. And he says, "Isn't that crazy how your mind tell you what you can't do, but your body can do something totally different?" So I happened to be at the gym today, and it's his brother. He's same age as I am, and he squats 405 every day, 7 days a week. He squats. He puts 405 pounds on his back. He squats. I can verify. He don't even have knee wraps on. He's 1 year. I think he's either 55 or 56. So we're in the same age range. I'm like, dude, for your age, that's fucking amazing, right? I can do 315. I can do 315 to the floor 6 times. This guy got 400 or something. Okay, I don't. Y'all may never experience. Most of y'all may never experience that, right? And he said, quite often when I come in here 7 days a week, there's times I have to learn to master the art of my mind separation from my body. And this is something he said that was really dope, and I want to share with you guys. He said, You know, often when we do stupid shit, we respond to a thought. A thought will pop in our head, and we validate that thought, but it's just a thought. He goes, you know what's so great about working out like this? It's taught me how to let the thought just be a thought. He goes, if you could just let a thought be a thought, you'd be surprised how you will move in this world, how much empowerment you will receive from that, and how you would reduce your interaction with stupid shit. Like, if you think about this, a lot of times, a lot of your friction, a lot of your stress, a lot of your anger, it's just a thought. A lot of your feelings, a lot of your emotions, it's just a thought. But, you know, we're very impulsive animals, and we feel the thought and we just act on it as if it's real. You know, even if you think somebody don't like you, or even racism, oh, they don't like me. And you have that thought, and then you act on it, and you validate it, right? And what he says that if you just let a thought be a thought, eventually that thought just goes away. It's only when you validate the thought becomes substance to you. That's just some cold shit, the way he framed it so simple. And of course, you know, I know this, but the isolation of it's just a thought. And if we learn that, like, and I would argue that earlier when we talked about stress, I don't think you can achieve inner mastery without some form of stress or training. And because when you don't have inner mastery, I've been there before. For example, if let's say I don't work out for, when I say my workout, like, you know, I may run 4 miles a week. I might ride my bike 40 miles a week, and I may lift weights 3 days a week. Now, on that 40-mile bike ride or on that run, I'm going through inner mastery because I have all these thoughts going crazy in my head. They're just going crazy. I have all these feelings, all these residue from the week. Oh, man, this pissed me off. This stressed me out. I got to take care of this, the other. By the end of my bike ride, everything has been reorganized, layered out. Things have just been, noise have been removed from my thoughts. Now, weightlifting by itself won't do it. I learned that the hard way. It does have its value because what weightlifting does is it allows you to build a relationship with stress and realize stress is just part of the equation. See, the reason stress was a shocker to many of you guys because you haven't built that relationship. But when I'm lifting weights, it's just part of the equation. And I'm going through the equation with the acceptance of stress because I'm trying to get to 10, 12, 15, whatever the number is, sometimes 4, 5, 6. And I understand that the stress is the measurement that I'm making progress. If I don't have stress in my workout, then I'm wasting my time being at the gym. I also understand that once my mind, here's the thing. So tomorrow I got to go cycle hills, right? So when I cycle hills, my heartbeat gets up to around 150 to 160, right? That means I'm at maximum. My brain the day before already tells me 1,000 reasons why I should not cycle those hills. Remember that one time? It uses remember that one time to death, right? And what you'll discover is that all the way until I get to the hill, my brain is working overtime to get me to turn around. I'm on my bike riding. There's no one in front of me. I've gotten 8 hours of sleep the night before. I'm fully nutrition. And I'm now at the beginning, and I'm riding to the hill, and my body's telling me about all the friends they know that did not make it, who are in the hospital, who had respiratory. And then they remind me, you know, now you do have asthma. I know you don't deal with it every day, but you know, you would hate to find out when we're at the top of this hill, right? Like I promise you. Then my brain even goes this far. You know, when you go down the hill, some shit can happen, and you know you're a father. You want to go home to your child. That might not be smart for you to go up to here because at some point you have to come down. I think I'm joking, but my brain is doing this so smooth. But because of my relationship with stress, I tell my brain, thought, shut up. You're doing it again. Shut up. Here you go with them good-ass stories. Shut up. It has not happened. What the fuck are you talking about? But that takes development to get to the point where I can talk to my thoughts. But if you're in a situation where you practice comfort, you have no idea how dominant the voice of your thoughts is inside your head. Mm-hmm. So I just want to put that thought in your mind. All right. There was a comment.
Pause.
There was a comment in the class that I skipped over, but I want to just kind of tap it really fast. So, comment. Watch yourself. So, let me say this, because if you tap in comments, you need to go see a therapist, a sexual therapist like that. Anyway, point is this. So, here's the thing. So, press secretary knows if you don't feel like you're good enough, your brain works overtime to manipulate you, to manipulate others to be a part of the group. That's a quick summary of a press secretary, right? But it said the press secretary thrives, I forgot the word it uses, but the word implied in a superficial space, when you're in a superficial mindset. I remember a long time ago, when Shakina first came around, I used to attack her and her pop culture ways. Pop culture is like this new, that's not really an old thing. It kind of started maybe 30 years ago. Pop, like I'm talking about the real, just be happy, whatever. Just let's just be cool. Don't get deep. Come on, man. Let's just kick it. Let's just not trip. Come on, man. All that thinking and shit. All trying to be philosophical and shit, right? When you're in that space and you're practicing the art of not thinking, you have no idea how much your brain is betraying you. If you really want to achieve growth and success, you have to be on guard, or you have to be the security to protect you from your own brain. And when you're in a superficial space, that's all everybody's doing is letting the press secretary talk back and forth. You ever been around? Okay, black people used to do it first, right? We get in a certain circle, and we just keep shooting the shit back and forth. But it's like almost like it's like a form of barbershop talk, but it's a little bit lower, where we just shooting the shit, but we all kind of lying to each other. Anybody walking in that room know we're lying. Like if aunties or uncles walking in, they're like, y'all lying asses need to cut that shit out, right? But we lying, right? Then I saw it in the gay community. You're fabulous. Oh my God, you're just wonderful. Oh my God, nobody needs to tell you anything. You're amazing. I don't understand why they wouldn't like you. Press secretary. Now I see the social justice group. Hey, don't let them shame you. You're fabulous. Right? Don't let them look down on you. Yes, you're a woman and you deserve that role. I don't give a shit if you're not good. Am I lying? Right? Black folks, right? Oh, they fired you because of racism. See, them white people don't see us like they need to see us. Because all of us suffer from a space feel not like we don't feel good enough. So justice is a movement of people who don't feel like they're good enough. Black people, we've been suffering in this country like we don't feel like we're good enough. LGBTQ, imagine your whole family rejected you, our community rejected you. You don't feel like you're good enough, right? So in the end, our press secretary works overtime. And so be careful existing in superficial spaces. You'll watch, like when you're in your analytical space, you probably can navigate through the sharpest river known to man. But when you in your press secretary space, you're running into walls walking down the fucking street. You will also say things that's going to shape your brand that when you decide to turn your intelligence side on, no one gives a fuck. No one values you like that because you've done so much damage to your brand while you were in the press secretary influence. You guys get that? So that's why we're serious. I'm getting to a whole bunch of reasons starting for the next 3 classes why we get serious about a lot of shit. But press secretary is the beginning, one of the beginning subjects. I'm going to hit 2 other subjects that are really fucking powerful. But just starting here, because I'm going to go from press secretary to control to attention. And when I get to attention, you'll really see the summary of why. Being serious is like okay, when I'm around Tone, we're shooting the shit, we're laughing and we're joking. But even when we're laughing and joking, there's a still degree of seriousness there. Same thing with Court. Me and Court saw each other today, right? I'm laughing and joking, but there's still a degree of seriousness. Even when Dave Clark, we sat and was interviewed by KTVU today, and Dave Clark was joking with us, but there's a degree of seriousness there to it, right? Then there's that superficial thing. Hey, baby, hey, how y'all doing? What's going on? Hey, what's that? That is a dangerous space to be in because you're literally just walking around letting yourself have biological instinctual responses to the environment and you have no idea the amount of damage you're doing. All right? Shabisha, before we get to the subject, but this is going to be strong because we're going to roll a little bit, right? So just get you some water before we get started. This subject here has been on my mind for 7 years. And I finally found the material that was done by Chris Agaris. I can't say his name for shit. Agaris. He died in 2013. He was a Harvard professor. He died in 93. He had 13 degrees. This cat, if you ever listen, there's a few clips of him speaking, his level of awareness will blow your mind. Like if you just talk, when you talk to him, he sees so many layers and he'll speak to all the layers as he's talking to you. That's the most amazing thing. He wrote a book that about defense routines and defense behavior. The book was selling for $200 on Amazon. I think it went down to $90 on Amazon. If you want the printed book, you can get a Kindle for $10, right? Because it's a digital. And let me help you out. Let me tell you how cool this book is. There's so many misspelled words, it'll make your head blow. Like it'd be like I'm sometimes reading, going, "What the fuck? What is that? Oh, he missed." I'm talking about consistently, but the data is so strong and so rich that anybody that's in this game understands the value of what you're reading. And I feel like they took his notes, or like he typed up something really, really fast and he just took it and made a book out of it. And it's so powerful that even if you have to struggle through it, it's worth the struggle because it's so intense, right? And what got me to the point where I wanted to come back to this was the second year of Hope. We had an exercise. I think Tonvik was there. And I said, okay, black folks, what are all the problems in the black community? Like I said, I think in business, education, and housing. So I made 3 categories: business, education, schools, education. Yeah, business, education, and housing, right? That's schools. So it's business, schools, housing. Make it simple for those at home that said education. That's a big word. Anyway, so if they said that, they probably they didn't get past court class. They still in the dictionary. He used a couple words. I was like, wait, what? But so the list covered the wall. Am I lying? I had a blackboard. The list covered the wall, and it was well articulated. I'm talking about to the point that you felt the intelligence in the room when we were talking about the problem. I said, okay, guys, we did a good job. Now let's break off in the same teams, come back with solutions. I could have fit that list on my palm. Yeah, so it was no exaggeration, about 5, right? About five solutions. So it was like something like 100 to 5, right? I said, damn, black folks are really defensive. Well, first of all, most human beings are defensive, but we're even more defensive because of slavery, Jim Crow, crack era, poverty, economic suppression, right? All that makes you more defensive, right? Everything around you tells you you're not good enough. Minority, second-class citizen, underserved, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, damn, that's crazy that we could see this, right? Then you realize that defensive thinking is a human thing. But, of course, the more you've been through, the worse it gets. To the point that it starts to become the data. Go back to his pyramid. Roll back to that pyramid just real quick. Just for the sake of this visual. And then we go right back there. Whenever you get there, just let me get there. Strategy, you can have a healthy strategy, but what's sit underneath that strategy to change the meaning of that strategy is your perception of the world, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's distorted, you could take the same strategy and produce an opposite outcome. If your undercurrent form of perception or paradigm of the world is different, which is the data, paradigm is the data. If the underlying paradigm is different, you can follow the same rules that, say, court used for success, with the same obstacles, the same challenges, but if your paradigm is different, you have an opposite outcome. Is that shit cold? So defensive thinking is this system that, okay, has anybody met anybody that died from cancer? Anybody? Okay. Just raise your hand if you met somebody who died from cancer, or heard of somebody who died from cancer. Did you know when they were healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the cancer when they were healthy? Most of us didn't, right? Do you know in businesses, defensive thinking is the cancer of business, and you won't see it unless you learn how to see it? So, like, if you go to a doctor, they can run a blood test and go, hey, something's going on, which gives them clues that you have cancer. But if you have the cancer of defensive thinking within your organization and you don't know what to look for, you can look healthy until you're not. It's literally that fast. You can look healthy until you're not. And actually, if you have defensive thinking within your organization, you're a walking dead. Go ahead.
True that.
Can you give us a few clues of what that?
Yeah. Slow down, brother. Slow down. We're gonna get there.
He was like,
He's
wait a
like,
minute.
he's
I
like,
need to
man,
know
hold
what
on.
that can-
Hold on.
I need to know
I
what
don't know
that
what they
cancer
need, but I
looks
need my
like.
shit right away. Can I get that booklet?
I need early detection.
He was
That's
like,
my business.
no, he was like, can you give us a few clues?
Look, he Darth Vadered me on this one. I'm like, hey, bro, look here. I don't want no problems.
Dark Vader.
Pause. I got to pause that one. So anyway, I'm talking about me. I said that. Okay, so jump back to that first slide. I'm gonna start off in this conversation slow. Of course, because I'm reading his book and I've been reading all of the books I've been reading pieces from books that have come out after this. I'm obsessed because there's these invisible things holding black folks back. It's not intelligence. It's not because you came from Africa. Because there's always this implied idea because we came from Africa, there's something we don't have that white people have. We even suggested it when we speak. Mm-hmm. We'll say, they, as if they're special. They're not. They got white people just as poor as you, and they got white people richer than you. They got white people underperforming, they got white people overperforming you, right? White skin don't make you special. Just like black skin don't make you worse, right? But what is it in our culture? What story are we telling ourselves that changes our outcome, even though we're putting the same amount of fucking work into it? And if you don't know these things, you can't see these things. So today, hopefully in this class, I'm going to change your lens. And I promise you, once you see it, it's going to really bother you. It's going to bother you for a little while. And it's going to probably put you in a space of uncertainty and discomfort because you're going to realize that not only is it around you, you're probably participating in it. Not only are you participating in it, you're probably teaching your children the same principles. And here's the thing about this defensive thing. In order to be a successful entrepreneur, you're going to have to shift to the offensive side. Defensive thinking, I guarantee you can move to a certain distance, but you will collapse. It's not sustainable. And there's so much research there's so much research surrounding this from Stanford to Harvard. There's so many corporate examples, business examples, there's many organizations that failed that when they went back and assessed it, even a lot of president failures when the spaceship blew up, Challenger blew up, it blew up because of defensive thinking. There's so many different things that once you understand it, also with defensive thinking, it's going to remove a lot of conspiracy talk. Because you're going to realize how unintended consequences happen, and it's going to look like it's a well-planned act, but it's really a disease, the cancer of defensive thinking in your organization that will change the outcome of your intent. So let's say you're an activist. That's why I said, I said a long time ago, activists build horrible businesses. Because what are activists usually doing? They're usually what? Defensive. Most activists, if they build what they actually try to build, if they actually reach a certain height in their build, they will build the opposite of who they are. They will become their enemy. It's some cold shit as we get into this. You ready?
Wait, say that again.
So an activist,
that's real.
because you're moving from a space of defense, you create something you didn't intend. Right. So once you reach your highest height, as you reach a higher height of growth, you will eventually create something that works against. It will become the thing you did not intend. Often it becomes the thing that you were fighting against.
Got you.
I was going to remove conspiracy. As we get into this, I'm going to show you how a lot of our conspiracy ideas, whether you were an employee, like, oh, management thinks this, or the government's doing this, or you're going to realize, no, it's a systemic breakdown. And when a defensive system happens, none of the players are immoral or trying to work against the company. No one is have ill intent, and there's no such thing as underskilled people sabotaging. When you're defensive, you have no idea that you're working against yourself. You don't realize that even though you're working really, really hard, you're sabotaging everything you're doing, and you have no awareness that you're doing it. Let me say this as we get started. Radical responsibility, let me go over this one more time. Radical responsibility is whatever happens to you, I'm taking 100% responsibility. But once I take responsibility, I ask myself a question, not shame myself or guilt myself. What can I learn from this? Guess what the opposite of radical responsibility is? Defensive thinking. So some of y'all, when I say radical responsibility, you're like, ooh, that's kind of hard. I know it is. I know it is. And this is why it's going to be very, very difficult, because most of society is defensive. So this is why entrepreneurs, we need each other, because when you learn to get out of defensive thinking and you turn to people and say, what do y'all think? All the noise is going to come back to you is going to be defense. You're not going to have offensive talk coming in your direction. And when you hear it, you'll be like, oh shit, what do you do for a living? This is one of the ways, this is one of the beacons that we wear as entrepreneurs, to let other entrepreneurs know that we're in the room. When a problem happens, we go, offense, offense, offense. Then somebody go, are you an entrepreneur? Or do you run a company? Like, how would you know that? Right? Because most of society moves in a defensive space. Defensive thinking also is a mental snag. So if you're thinking about something, for example, problem happens. You can't think past the problem. It becomes a destination. Oh, what's wrong with Oakland? We asked that question today, and I said, what do you mean what's wrong with Oakland? See, defensive thinkers get stuck on the problem. Offensive thinkers are going way past the problem. Their thoughts can go way, and they can ask way more questions. Defensive thinking becomes a psychological tunnel for you. You cannot think outside the tunnel. Black Wall Street, when you listen to black people talk about Black Wall Street, they're defensive thinking. Look what they did to us. See what they take away from us. Oh my God, right? They never ask, well, how did they get there? What could they have done next? What could they have done different? What lessons can we learn so we build our next Wall Street? What were some of the mistakes they made, right? You can't think that far because you're stuck in that emotion, that rich emotion of unfairness, and you're under attack, and your brain can't get past that. That's why a lot of us who are defensive thinkers who are building businesses, we're making poor decisions because we're falling to binary decisions as opposed to using optionality, having multiple angles. When you meet somebody who's offensive, you seem like you just can't corner them. You just can't corner them. You'll put them in this situation, they'll be like, well, I got this. You're like, God damn it. This cat always finds a way out. Defensive thinkers, all you need to do is offend them, and they stuck. They stuck. Oh, I'm pissed off. You spend 3 days being pissed off and 3 days not progressing. Think about that. 3 days being pissed off and 3 days not progressing. What the fuck has happened here? And here's the thing. Defensive thinkers love to hear defensive talk over offensive talk. Remember back in the days, you're changing now, but let's go back to old Tone Vic. No, you need to be more aggressive. That's defensive thinking. Because he was trying to look for access to the brains of the students. He's like, no, how do you access their brains? To a certain degree, there's a certain amount of truth to that. But the reason I chose not to, because something felt wrong about it. Once I found his book, I was like, oh my God. And then I found all the sources, and like, this is really a big thing that we just haven't known about, right? And once you see it, it's a superpower. It's an absolute superpower. And you'll understand some of the decisions you have to manage, where the cancer is going to come into your company at some point. It's going to come to, okay, I'll tell you what's really funny. Defensive managers hire defensive employees. Oh, you're an activist too? Oh, that bothers you too? Oh yeah, I'm gonna hire you because I can relate to you. Then one day you realize your company can't evolve. When you hire too many defensive employees, you can't learn anymore. You can't evolve anymore. You can't move forward anymore. You can't have honest conversations anymore. You can't challenge each other anymore. I don't feel safe when the way you came at me.
Facts.
Defensive thinking destroys organizations. But remember this. I'm about to get in this lesson because we're going to take our time with it. When you hire somebody, if you're the head of the organization, guess what they're going to copy and paste? You. So if you're a defensive thinker, guess what you're going to do unconsciously? Even if you say, no, I'm not going to be defensive. I'm going to practice everything I read. I read all these books, all of them. I read offensive strategy books, but your language is defensive. Marquita, I just disagree with you. You're absolutely wrong about that. I forced her to be defensive. Now, when she responds to me, or she doesn't respond to me, she's just as much as the problem.
Scott got something.
Go ahead, Scott.
Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, this came back up because we were talking about this the office the other day, and I was trying to articulate something too, and I couldn't remember what it was. There's actual names for the feedback loops you're talking about.
There are.
The offensive feedback loop is the Pygmalion effect, and the negative feedback loop is the what was it called? The Gollum effect. So basically, the Gollum effect is what you're talking about. Defensive. When you treat everybody like shit because you're defensive, everybody's going to treat you like shit. But it just popped back up. I wanted to lob that out there.
That's tight. That's tight. And they call it looping, which I'm going to have to get into in 1 second. The thing is that I'm going to show you how it's I'll give you the surface because as we get into it, it's going to get more and more complex because some of y'all are thinking that you're on the opposite side of the fence, I'm on the top of the fence. By the time I get through with this class, you'll realize most of us are on the defensive side. And so even when you're leading and you're talking to people, the words you choose in your everyday conversation is poisoning your company. See, when you speak, if you're not working on inner mastery, you will destroy your company in innocence. Intelligence won't save you. A lot of smart people, I'm talking about highly intelligent people, extremely intelligent people who are defensive, they destroy some companies. So the words you choose, the reason you got to work on inner mastery to get yourself in the right space so you can have the luxury of being offensive and realize you're not going to be like everybody else when you're offensive. Now, you can solve some motherfucking problems. You can move some things forward. You can have some healthy families. You can have some rich-ass relationships. But you won't be popular in the popular circles. Just know that. But understand that once you get to that, like, if you don't work on that inner mastery, which goes back to everything we talked about earlier, stress, exercising, being aware of self, and being able to have this conversation with yourself and hear yourself, and even allowing people to give you rich feedback so you can see yourself, then you could just be speaking just in the midst. Here's the thing. So remember, going back to superficial brain. You're busy. Anybody try to get deep when you're busy? It's hard, ain't it? Like if you just need to move real fast, right? And you know what you got to do, but you go through the steps, right? Every company goes through that, right? And while you go through the steps, you start using language that starts to amplify a defensive undertone. Now it's calmed down. You try to go back to the stoic, insightful, intellectual, but you've already planted a seed within your team. And if they start to repeat that language, because they're going to do it unconsciously. They're not going to say, hey, by the way, I'm about to copy you. Today I heard some words you use. I'm going to try that for myself. They're going to unconsciously just start doing it. And all of a sudden, you'll start hearing certain languages and certain things that seem so innocent, that's nothing but fucking defensive. And if that shit gets to water by a couple of incidents and experiences, it takes off so fast. Now you say, well, Nana, how does it take off so fast? You remember that podcast about pluralistic ignorance? You remember in the podcast, it talked about how a group of people could hold a separate thought in their head than to how they're acting? In corporate America, if we are holding certain thoughts in our head because we develop a negative thought, but we're not speaking on it and we're moving over here, but we really feel like this. But when the lights are not on us, what are we doing? We start to work in this area, we start to fracture the company and sabotage the company because we're responding to that elephant in the room that no one's comfortable talking about because it's in our head. You know, white people. If I say that phrase amongst a group of black people at the right time, you know how white people, none of us ever asked them. No one's ever surveyed them. No one's ever pulled the data. But you know white people. So if we hold that in our mind, a white person walks in this room that's about to give us some information to help us, but we're too cynical to hear them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're too, Josh, you don't count. You're irrelevant to me. So, and that's the opposite of love. So anyway, so I'm just playing with you. Don't go home, be all sad. He wears purple jacket, so he's looking for a lot of love because he's party today. Point is this, and so going back to the point is that know that it takes off like a wildfire because we hold thoughts in our head that we share that we never talk about within corporate America. And if those thoughts are bound by defensive thinking, then we start to form separate groups that don't like other groups, and we start to sabotage each other, and we stop serving the overall goal of the company, our organization, and we start serving our personal defensive interests. Is that shit so cold? Is this shit cold? All right, let's get into it. Stay with me. I want to like prime you, so when I'm getting into this, I want you guys just as curious as hopefully I made you. So as you go through this, I'm transferring ownership. You guys with me? All right, let's do this. Should be just a roll. Go turn that microphone on. We need a microphone. There you go.
Defensive behavior. Anytime you hear the phrase, "Here we go again."
Now, this shit's powerful. Stop. Before we get to this is going to be so fucking powerful, this first opening point, because if you're victimized by someone's behavior or you know somebody who's defensive that you interact with, it has nothing to do with you. Finish it again. Go ahead. Here we go again.
Here we go again in response to a problem. It is a clue that a pattern is in play.
So you say, "Here we go again." If your brain goes, here we go again. Tennille, here we go with Tennille again. Right? Or here goes this another problem again, right? Go ahead.
To a trained systems thinker.
By the way, systems thinking is pure data. Go ahead.
The phrase is a signal to search the system for the deeper organizational structures that give rise to the pattern.
So what's causing this pattern? Go ahead.
Have you ever heard yourself say, "There he, she goes again"?
Mm-hmm.
If you have, then there is also a pattern in play, but on an interpersonal level.
Now watch this shit. Next slide. Go ahead. You okay with Sharisha?
My next slide don't look like that. Interesting. Let's see.
Okay.
Most likely, you have focused on the other person's familiar set of behaviors or words. You know what is coming.
So you know. So for example, somebody does something. You know, okay, here goes Marquita again. She's about to go off on some shit again, right? So you're kind of focusing on Marquita being the person that's the problem in the room, right? Okay, so now at this point, of course you're a victim at this point because you're like, I'm trying not to be a victim. I'm trying to avoid her, but you know, dealing with Marquita, here she go again. Go ahead.
Your certainty is not based on any omniscient ability to predict the future, but on a careful selection of past behavior.
So you think about it, every time we've interacted in the past, when she does this, your brain is saying, okay, this is that shit again. Go ahead.
You anticipate a simple repetition of the past.
Same old shit, same old thing, same old, I want to raise my voice, tell her to leave me the fuck alone. Go ahead.
Often, there is a quick flash of resignation or a girding of your will to take on the person's behavior once again.
So when you sit there and you embrace her position, you're going to absorb that conversation. But as I absorb that conversation and take on her conversation, in participation of the past, go ahead.
Sorry, I lost my place.
Once again, it is
I don't even see that.
girding of
your will to take on another person's behavior once again. It is also predictable, at least when it comes to the other person's behavior. What you may not be aware of is your own response, which is equally predictable.
So as you respond to the person acting some kind of way, you're just as predictable as that person. You don't get to be like point fingers. See, radical responsibility. You see, if you practicing the blame game, you at that moment when Marquita comes towards you, you automatically looking at, oh, here come Marquita's tripping, and you're stuck in that blame space, not realizing you're part of this. Next slide.
The phrase "here he or she goes again" communicates a message that the problem lies with the other person's behavior. Yet what is taking place is actually within the sphere of interpersonal interaction. Certain ways of thinking about and relating to others are reinforced, creating predictable, vicious cycles of behavior called defensive routines.
So as I get ready to respond to Marquita, once I respond to her, I have now been adopted in the defensive routine. And now we're going to start looping back and forth. And now we're in a defensive rhythm. So if she's defensive and I respond in a defensive way to her behavior, right? Now there's a way to respond. If she comes at me a certain way, if I'm offensive, there's a way to respond to that. But if I have a defensive response to her response, over time, it just starts to compile itself and become its own thing. You know, there's some people you don't like, but if I ask you why, you really can't describe it. That's a defensive loop. So it's not just about them. If you're a defensive person, when people come at you with this shit, you take on their shit. Just stick with me how cold this shit is. Don't think defense is just you projecting the world. That means that you also absorb the world in a way that damages you. Keep going.
Defensive routines come about through a combination of human behavior and the limits of awareness, where we fail to see how our interactions are part of a system of unproductive behavior.
So, a lot of times we analyze human behavior, we're analyzing one-on-one behavior. We're not analyzing how once I do something and it goes within a group and how it starts to change its shape or its impact as it gets into the group, and then what does it become once it gets into the wild? It's like you plant these seeds, but no one really understands the trees that it turns into. So defensive behavior, when you plant that seed, it's going to become a weed. Some of the weeds may look beautiful, but I can promise you it's going to kill you. Keep going. Next slide. Huh? Did we finish that slide? Did we
Yeah,
finish that?
we did.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Defensive routines exist in all organizations, and people feel disempowered and helpless to change them.
So once they mature to a certain point, they're so overwhelming. Like once you develop a defensive group, defensive community, defensive organization, defensive business, everybody is being, because it's such a rigid, like what do you call it? Not bureaucracy, aristocracy, I think they call it. Aristocracy. So there's another. It's when the top heavy management do what I say, right? When you have a very
Authoritarianism.
but it's another form of aristocracy. I forgot that there's a bureaucracy and there's another. Huh? No. So I'll look it up. I'll make sure I bring it back to you guys so I can make sure I have some accuracy in that language next class. But when defensiveness takes off, it creates a very imprisoned environment for the people who work in those environments. So, for example, let's say I'm very defensive. And Shakina's always say she works underneath me as middle management, right? So if I'm defensive and I put out memos, most of my memos are going to be unclear because I'm trying to write from a defensive space. So as she takes that defensive space and she doesn't really understand it, she's going to try to interpret it and pass it to the employees, right? But the employees are going to feel some kind of way because they can feel something's missing. So she's going to try to be cool with the employees, but yet she's going to also try to be cool with me because I can fire her. So in the end, she ends up causing more damage because she's trying to dance and be make-believe between two groups because there's a defensive energy in the room. Also in a defensive space, no one gives a shit about what you think. Yeah, I can hear your opinion as long as you don't change nothing. Yeah, what's your opinion? Good. I don't want to hear that shit again. What's your opinion? Oh yeah, you think I'm right? That's brilliant. I'm glad you can see that. Like literally, I'm not exaggerating this, but when you're defensive, you create this environment as a leader where there is no free conversation. Feedback doesn't work. There ain't no feedback. I only want to hear what makes me feel good. If I feel threatened by you or I feel you can embarrass me, I don't hear shit from you. Keep going.
Every day, defensive routines cripple organizations, resulting in the loss of productivity, a dispirited workforce, and a cultural malaise of dissatisfaction.
Huge. High turnover still. Go ahead.
Defensive routines are patterns of interpersonal interactions people create to protect themselves from embarrassment and threat.
So embarrassment, threat. Nothing can be defensive. This is one story told in the book where this group were told to get together. Listen to this story. It's a good story. This is all business strategy now. So the group was brought together, and the manager said, we have a big problem. But when you're defensive, deep meetings and rigorous thinking goes away. Deep thinking and rigorous thinking goes away. Let me tell you why rigorous thinking goes away. Because if you go rigorous and something you say offends me as a leader, then your employees stop going deep into the dialogue. They stop analyzing things too far because there's a chance I can get offended because you're going against my strategy, right? Or if you speak in a way that's outside of my thinking and embarrasses me, I'm going to unconsciously cap the conversation. So you learn to come into the meetings and stay superficial to keep me calm and keep me comfortable. Or if I'm very passionate about my beliefs, like say I'm pro-black or I believe in something I'm super religious, right? You'll come into my circle and tiptoe to make sure I'm comfortable. Right? 2, when I'm very defensive, I'm also looking for a level of certainty. I'm uncomfortable with uncertainty. So I want to cap this conversation as fast as possible. Get to the point, right? So they brought 6 people into the room. They said, hey, we got a problem. Within 1 hour, they came up with 6 strategies. That means you're pretty superficial, right? They all went out and took care of the strategy, and they get out and they make $200,000 from the strategy. Right? So they have a party celebrating, wow, we made $200,000 from the strategy we planned. And the professor walked in and said, I don't know why you're celebrating. What do you mean why you're celebrating? He said, because it's a horrible idea. You didn't think it through. There's 4, 5, 6 steps later, as you continue down the same path, you're going to be dead as a business. And because all of them were embarrassed, I just worked on this plan for 6 months. We're at a party and you're telling me I'm wrong. I'm embarrassed. So they all went on, all the managers just shut them out. Psh, whatever, this dude's tripping. Cut that contract, pay him his money, let's get him out of here. 4 years later, the company's gone. Think about this. You work on a strategy, you go way down, you put all this money into it, and somebody comes along and go, hey, that's a bad idea. Can you turn around and walk it back? Don't work like that. Because if you're defensive, you can't. Now, if you're offensive, you're like, well, where the fuck do I need to go now? But if you're defensive, if you're offensive, you probably didn't get that far down that path. But if you're defensive, because going down that path, that means you shut a lot of people out. I don't care what you say. I don't care I know what I'm doing. I don't care what you talking about. I know I'm right. I know where I'm going. I'm passionate. I believe. I know what I know, Nana. Motivated. And all the wise men are looking at you like, oh my God. Offensive thinker stops and go, well, what would you do different? How should I think about this? Offensive thinker will always have a card in their pocket that says, what if I'm wrong? They never, ever, ever, ever over leverage being right. Keep going, Shabish.
The conditions of threat and embarrassment arise when our abilities are negatively evaluated by a colleague or authority figure. Mm-hmm. It could be that our reputation is on the line.
So if your reputation, going back to, so one of the ways I want to answer what Kaja said is that sometimes it could be money, but it also could be your reputation. Your back is against the wall because your reputation is on the line. And human beings will fight to their death to protect their reputation, their status, or their value. To us, that's the same thing. Right? So honestly, quiet as it's kept, if y'all haven't figured this out, entrepreneurs, business owners, you can pay people 2 ways, money or status. Keep the shit 100. There's some people who work for you all day long for status. Don't give a shit about a dime. Matter of fact, you pay them too much, they will convert their thinking to money, and then you might have a problem. So quite often, if that is ever triggered in a defensive thinker, they become a person that goes the opposite direction, even with good intent. Keep going.
And we find ourselves in a situation where we think we have been set up to fail.
Oh, wait. Go back. Let's roll back. Go back to it could be that.
It could be that our reputation is on the line.
Now, listen, black people, listen to this real quick. Black people, put on your pro-black ears. I don't give a shit if you kind of whitewashed and your white wife is in the back of the kitchen and she's got the white kids outside playing. Just stay with me for 4 seconds. Josh, not talking about you this time. Okay, so just for 4 seconds, black folks, I'm going to talk to black folks for a minute. My Latino people, just hold on, because I'm sure you guys can paint a scenario similar. My Jewish folks, my Asian folks, just hang with me for a second. But black folks, I need to talk to y'all on this one. Read that from It Could Be That.
It could be that our reputation is on the line.
Black people.
And we find ourselves in a situation where we think we have been set up to fail.
White people have set us up to fail. No matter how hard we work, we've been what? Got to work twice as hard to get what? We don't feel like they have our what? We've been suppressed for what? We got stories to tell all day long about we did all that work and they did what? Keep going. So we go back. So it says, situation where we think we have been set up to fail, or
where we are getting grilled over a perceived or actual mistake.
So you feel like you're being jammed or unfairly treated for the mistakes you make, because I see other people don't get treated like this. Go ahead.
There are many situations in which whether either potential threats or embarrassments,
right,
minor or major, exist. They can be unexpected or anticipated.
So even when these attacks are happening, they can be minor or major that can trigger your defensive behavior. It's not like you got to, not only to hide a defense, you move in that space. So anytime, think about this, if somebody don't think you're smart enough, you mad. If I say, okay, let me show you what that means if I don't think you're smart enough. Yeah, but Sue, I think that idea is not a good idea. Your brain says, oh, you don't think you're smart. You're not gonna work with me to discover a solution. Even if we finish the conversation and you finish it, you walk away with residue because you're offensive. That motherfucker disrespected me. I got to prove to him that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You don't win all. We not running down the track of success no more. You on the sideline building weapons to prepare for the next battle with me, not focus on where the fuck we going. You see what's happening here? I want you guys to see how cold this game is. How once you triggered, you take your eyes off the prize. You're doing some other shit. Every time you get triggered from your employees, your woman, your kids even your fucking kids. Once you triggered, you're no longer part of the game we're playing here. You remember in basketball how Dennis Rodman used to slap Alonzo Mourning on the butt? And Alonzo Mourning was anti the gay stuff so strong that he would underplay every time he played Alonzo Mourning. And he would say, because he be on that fag shit. Remember, he used to say just like that, right? And it was like, no, it's not about none of that stuff. Dennis Rodman was a mastermind there. Because what he does, he realized that, oh, this is what triggers you? Tap you. You're never going to get a defense. You'll never out-rebound me. Not a day in your life. That was mastery. That's strategy mastery. I'm sorry, that's what it is. And honestly, the reason you get whooped by a lot of people in this game is not because they're white or they're smarter. It's because you're defensive. Let me say this again. They're not smarter than you. It's not because they're not whiter than you. Some of y'all pretty light. It's not whiter than you. I'm saying it's because you're more defensive. Because some of y'all, Tennille was not talking to you. Tennille started cutting me with a motherfucking eye. Tennille, don't do that to me. Don't do it to me. Don't do it. Tennille looked at me like, I swear to God. Tennille, we are in the same family, Tennille. Don't do that to me. Hey, I just feel like my ears got cut. So you going to say something else? Keep going?
I lost my thought laughing at Tennille. It'll come back to me.
Okay. Next slide. This is slide heavy because I want you guys, I'm going to spend 2 classes on this, and then you guys got to look at this up for yourself. Plus, I posted a document, and then we're going to kind of come outside of the document in 1 second. Keep going. Go ahead.
Wait a minute.
Whether?
Nope. We finished this one.
No, it's a new slide.
No, it's a new one?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. Whether actual or perceived, what is under attack is our sense of competence.
Okay, freeze. Black people, think about when somebody challenges your sense of competence. In this country, they spent how many times telling that you had the bell curve. You wasn't just as smart as the rest of us. It's been written in this country's history for years. We're not as smart as them, right? If I come for your competence, how in the fuck you gonna do feedback? How are we gonna have discoveries? How are you gonna ask me certain kind of questions if you're always trying to protect your competence? And let me talk to my college-educated black folks. Y'all on your competence, You guys be acting like y'all all Rambo trying to protect competence. Y'all be John Wicking cats if they come against your competence. Y'all will shoot them cats so many goddamn times with words they didn't even heard before. Just for the simple fact that, how dare you attack my competence? Even if I am or not, it's irrelevant. The point is that when you're defensive, you're overprotective to a point that you stop hearing if it ever is triggered that your competence is under threat.
There are people out there that they master ways of triggering people. They move in that space. It's people out there who they don't even have to be that smart or that competent. They just know how to get under your people's skin. They know how to write emails in ways that will make you think for 3 days. They know how to say little jabs at you that will make you think about it continuously. Some people, their job, they made it their job to just learn how to trigger people.
That's you guys be surprised how you guys are triggered so much. And then social justice, which is a defensive movement. That's all it is. It's a defensive-based movement. And those of you who've built a fondness to social justice, you turned your frequency of defensive thinking to another level. Keep going, Shabisha.
Competence is the requisite or adequate ability to get done what needs to be done and to do it well. We operate best when feeling competent.
Mm-hmm.
While we would not think of ourselves as being unreasonable or ill-intended.
So, mind you, when you do snap, you won't sense you're in the wrong, or even if you know about defensive thinking right now, you won't sense it's defensive. Keep going.
We readily concoct private explanations about why others do or say something that creates difficulty for us.
Mm-hmm. This is where the gossip begins. So if you pay attention, like there's a lot of people that we hate or dislike, or people dislike, or even if you've risen to a certain point and people they have framed why they don't like you, and a lot of the times it's because something you did threatened their competence. In this class, I've developed more people who dislike me because something I said challenged their competence, and they saw it as a direct attack upon them, which then they got with other students and started to articulate why they don't like me. I ain't been to their house. I ain't eaten none of their food. I am not attracted to their mate. And yet some fucking how they don't like me because I threaten their competence. I want y'all to stay with me. Keep going.
We make attributions about each other's motives and intentions and hold other parties accountable for the difficulty we find ourselves at odds with.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Did you say, could you kind of say, is that how we talk about white people again? We make attributions about, what's it again?
About each other's motives and intentions.
So see, this, what white people were trying to do here. The reason we don't have it, because what white people was thinking. See, white people organize to make sure that we can't, at the end of the day, you see, where white people were going with this, and don't get me wrong, there's some systemic racism that I'm not trying to dismiss in my comments. I'm saying it's gotten out of control to a point that we're not even talking, people can't identify what the fuck they're talking about. All they know is if I don't have, somehow white people have something to do with this. You know what I mean? If my money's not right, somewhere, I know some white people done did some shit. Right? If you get fired by a white supervisor, he's got to be racist. I know goddamn well he's racist. Oh, to my gay folks, if a person tells you stop doing that shit, oh, you homophobic? To my hip hop community, if they tell you stop doing something like this, oh, see, when you was young, you make excuses. If I come at you about something you need to work on, you excuse it by trying to look at, well, what about when you did? That does not remove the fact that you're so defensive, you can't take the advice, and you look for a way to deflect your defenses by attacking me. But ultimately, you need to pull your fucking pants up. Not all the time, but in this scenario, it might make some sense, right? I'm not into like, because even trying to control everything is also defensive, right? I'm saying when people try to come to you and holler at you, right? You can't receive if it's outside of your reception maze. You ever played a maze game and it starts off and you're like, oh shit, dead end. Okay, dead end, right? Some of y'all talking to you and giving you advice, you gotta figure out the proper route, because if you don't hit those right words, you're gonna hit my dead end, motherfucker. And that's defensive. Where when you're offensive, I wanna hear what you're saying. Because even if you see something that I don't agree with or I can't see, that may be an option for me or something I need to grow into. Some of us are so attached to our software from 1984, 1976, and don't realize that success requires you to be always updated. But you're running on old software because you won't let new software download itself and update your fucking thinking. And so at the end of the day, you don't realize that a lot of these conversations you have about white folks, some of this shit is more in your mind than the reality in front of you. I'm battling with white people all the time, every day. They're just people. And if you get your strategy game, it's fun. I'm in there like, okay, I'm gonna use this technique, I'm gonna use that technique. I'm like, man, you just had us under control. Yeah, because you're people. But if I thought they were special and I was offended by them, I would have never even learned the technique I'm using to actually engage with them in a winning way. Keep going.
And hold other parties accountable for the difficulty we find when we find ourselves at odds with one another.
Oh, keep going.
In the privacy of our own mind.
In the private, this is mostly key important, and think about your employees. In the privacy of your own mind. Go ahead.
We hold our positions with a high degree of certainty.
Yeah, I don't like that motherfucking. I know who he is. I don't need no details. When he did this and this, that told me all I needed to know. What? Yeah, I would go over there and try to sell my product, but they don't fuck with black people like that. So I'm gonna just go over here. What? Young people never listen to my product. They never take my product because, every time last time I talked to them, they just didn't fuck with me. Plus, I knew this one dude, this hood dude from East Oakland. He didn't fuck with me. I knew this other hood dude from West Oakland. That means all young people don't fuck with me. What? I just want to show you this defensive rhythm. Keep going.
It is hard to listen when you think the other person is dead wrong.
Oh, it's hard to listen, bruh. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to listen to you right now, but you got me fucked up. Keep going.
Yet, we will be the first to call unfair if we don't think the other person is listening to us.
Mm-hmm. Ouch. Mm-hmm. You move in a way that, in the end, you must win, but you don't give a fuck about the casualties. See, that's what defense does. Next slide.
None of what we are thinking is spoken directly to the person involved.
We will most of the time we never go ask people that we don't like, is it true? We never ask questions. We build up a list of assumptions, bring our jury in our mind, make a judgment, and then register our verdict guilty. And be done with somebody, done with something, done with everything, done with a system. And it all happened right here. And we never pick up the phone and be like, hey, what happened last week? Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that? In a relationship with somebody, hey, tell me why you're angry and help me map this through. But you're just too scared that he's gonna say some shit gonna piss you off or bring up some shit you did 2 months ago. So then you already like, no, I really don't hear. Plus you always, that's defensive. You always, here we go again. We always, you see what I'm going at this? You're in the loop. Keep going.
In fact, when and if we share our emotionally charged assessments, theories, and explanations, we generally do so only with those individuals whom we feel will be sympathetic to our views.
So check this out. Defensive, guess what?
Ashe.
Hey, let me tell you something. I called my girlfriend. So my son got fired again from his job because he got a problem listening, right? I told him he got a problem listening. It's like, your listening's trash. So he starts to tell me why they fired him. And I said, well, dude, okay, before we get into this, can you notice that you've been fired like 5 times in a row from different companies and it's always their fault? I said, when are you going to stop and just say, what did I have to do with it? And then let's start building on that and work on like tools and solutions to work around it. So he listens to me going through, no. And you can see in his mind, he's thinking, I really don't want to talk to you because you're not giving me the energy I need right now. This is fucking boring talking to you. You going with that old fatherly type shit of what I should not do. Oh, this is trash. Go downstairs, call his friends. And so then he did this, and then I told him, and they always do this to me. This is why I don't think this is why gossiping is the practice of the defensive. Gossiping is the practice of the defensive. Gossiping is a practice of the defensive. And as soon as you start putting that shit out, you find your tribe. You know who your tribe is. You'll call Tone, be like, Tone, let me tell you what happened today. And Tone be like, hey, man, listen, man, it might be you. You're like, okay, Tone, let me call you back. Okay, Marquita, what's happening with your girl? What's happening? He did what to you? Yeah, then he did this and this. Oh, how'd you feel? Man, you know what? First of all, how's your spirit feel? Mm-hmm. Don't let him get you out of alignment. Mm-hmm. Did you meditate? All right. So that motherfucker don't need to be talking to you like that. Right? Am I lying? Trash. Keep it rolling.
These private conversations are held behind closed doors, in hallways, and in break rooms.
Come on now.
Nothing is discussed in public meetings, and rarely, if ever, do the targets of those third-party conversations find out what we really think.
No one ever really puts the count. They start to shape. They start having these. I love Shekinah, but, and she's cool, but sometimes, but. Now all those everything that falls at the word "but" piles up after a while and becomes negative residue about somebody. Now, if you ever been around me, y'all say, "No, let's just say what's on his mind." I'm getting rid of my fucking residue. If I feel something like this, I'll be like, "Hey, Shabisha," she can't tell you. If I feel something, she'll hear like I say, "Babe, the other day I was on Shabisha and she snapped on me. She irritated me. So she's like, what you gonna do, babe?" I said, I'm calling tomorrow or call in 5 minutes and see what the fuck's going on. I don't want that residue. Because what that residue does is it starts to poison the way I move. If Shabisha is the secret to my next level of success because our collaboration takes us to another level. Because remember, the next level, like Cord just said, is collaborations. But if all my residue is built up about the people around me, my collaborations are all damaged. They're all patched, they're raggedy, they're barely hanging in there. So in the end, even my referrals are trash. Because once I sense something about them, then the way I'm going to act towards them going to make them sense something about me. Now we're in a loop, right? They don't like me this much as like I don't like them now. Because I created that. You see where I'm going with this? She's in my defensive loop. I'm in her defensive loop. Now so I do something I beget her behavior. She begets me, and we going back and forth. Now we got this thing where we need therapy to be cool. Because you got me fucked up. Or you'll say something like, I just don't, when she come in the room, I'm just going to leave. I just don't feel like dealing with that shit today. But you don't realize somewhere in that early stage, you did not release the issue that was in your head. What you did was you just in secrecy, you never went to the person and said, it just kind of bothered me when this happened. Can I talk to you about it? But see, that requires a different kind of mindset to even get there because all the defensive people in this room going, ooh, shit, now that's be kind of hard. I know, because you're defensive. Because in your mind, you're thinking about all the defensive things that can happen to you if you do it. Keep going.
The result is open secrets.
Open secrets.
Undiscussables. Or the elephant in the room.
And then it gets so cold, you start to cover up the cover-ups. I'm not exaggerating. It gets so bad in corporate, you will cover up the cover-ups. Keep going.
Most everyone can think of an example of this behavior, often accompanied by a juicy story. What is often left out of the story
Come on, tell them.
is the teller's complicit participation in it.
Radical responsibility. What's left out of that story, let me just put in a cleaner set of language that you guys understand. When you tell a story about the problem you have with somebody, what's left out of all your fucking stories is what responsibility or what role you played in it. Right. If you start with that in all your conversation with other entrepreneurs, you'll move past a lot of shit really fast. Radical responsibility is a superpower. So, Shekinah made me mad. But you know what I did that probably participated in that process? There you go. But Shekinah made me mad. She always, you know how she is. She just be, oh my gosh, she be on some shit. I'm just as bad as she. As two defensive people having an argument.
Hey, that's why them phone calls be quick to end when you say, well, what did you do?
Oh, man.
What did you do?
Hello?
Anytime that there's been like anybody who complain about their spouse or their significant other and they talk crazy about them, time out, you chose them. What did you do? How did you get there? It's not about them. It's about you. Them is quick like, oh yeah, hey, my pot boiling. I got to go get it. Because it's always that.
Always. In cell phone world, to my pocket. That's a good one. Keep going.
There is no awareness around how he or she might be involved in creating the secret, the undiscussable, or the elephant.
So even if you have a person in your company that's the absolute asshole, just defensive king, you don't realize you participate in keeping that system going. You can participate. There's an elephant in the room, and you know because of her and because of you too. If you're that kind of person that's always apologizing for somebody else, you're a defensive enabler, which means you're also defensive. Mm-hmm. Keep going.
These dynamics become a routine part of the workplace culture.
Mm-hmm.
Whole departments become encased in assumptions and expectations that feed predictable, vicious cycles of human behavior.
So we're in a room with a team we just hired. 10 of us are sitting around a table, but we all have different assumptions in our head. For example, if I say, let's go cut down a tree, and there's a whole bunch of trees in the backyard, we may cut down the whole fucking backyard because all of us have a different perception of what tree we're talking about, right? So when you're working with teams of people, you don't get to manage their physical bodies. You got to manage the invisible conversations in their head. And you got to look for signs of certain things that they're doing that lets you know, oh, we got a cancer in the group. And not a cancer person, a cancer belief. It's not about the persons. A belief is starting to grow in the group, and it's going to trigger the defensive energy in these animals. And before you know it, they're going to start to have these private thoughts in their head, and they're going to start having war against each other. And all of a sudden, your company has nothing to do with it. And you're paying in the battle, and you're going to go broke. They're going to withhold information to help the other team win, to make the company a profit, because in the end, if I help them win, I don't fucking fuck with them like that. You see where I'm going with this? Or if I think I'm going to get fired, I'll do just enough so I don't get fired. You see where I'm going with this? Because they perceive that that's how you're moving in this company because they don't really know where you stand. Keep going.
Defensive routines become so ingrained in our social behavior that they become an accepted way for how things work around here.
This is how we move around. This is how our office is. Go ahead.
What is more apparent is the realization that the organization, project, or team isn't all that it is cracked up to be. No one is walking the talk, and everyone knows it.
When defense starts to impact your team, we start to work to make everybody comfortable instead of achieve the goal. So if I feel if there's two people in the room that holds a strong opinion, and I don't feel like doing no shit today, I'm just gonna work to make this shit go away because I'm just trying to get my paycheck to take care of my kids at the end of the week. You as an entrepreneur may have a bigger goal. Sometimes the people on your team join your goal. But at some point, they can take their eyes off the goal and focus on their survival. So when you're defensive, they go into survival work mode, which is focus on the task and don't give a fuck where it lands. Mm-hmm. Even if the task is superficial, I don't care. I just don't want to cause no problems because I'm just trying to get my job done. But you understand, you're creating this rhythm in your culture because the way you're showing up every day. Keep going. Huh?
Can I ask a question, or do you want to keep rolling?
If you make it really quick, because I want to really roll through this. Go ahead. Try it. Can you summarize it?
I don't want. Look, I'll ask it later.
I want to get to a certain point because I want to nail a point. If we get to this certain point and we nail it, then I'll come back to questions. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was like, I don't want that. We finished this slide.
Okay, next slide. Yeah, go. Here you go. To the right. Let's go.
They equate being realistic with being simplistic.
Ooh. Remember that pop culture shit I just told y'all about? If your culture becomes too pop in your office, hi, how you doing? Hey, Michael. Hey, Bob. And they're in meetings and they're just following the rules. If people start talking to you and being safe, they're falling into their defense routines. See, Marquita had a chance to watch me and Mashama have, she brought it to our attention, had a conversation the other day, and we disagreed. That's what we do. There's no anger. There's no emotions. Everybody in our group disagrees, right? That's just how it was. Like, if I disagree with you, I'm going to disagree with you. But also, disagreement wasn't the end of the conversation. It was the start of a conversation because the space was safe enough for you to have that kind of conversation. In some places, disagreements, because of our trauma, is the beginning of an argument. See where I'm going with this? So then what happens is that, look, let's just keep things simple. It's either going to be this or that. That's a sign you got defensive problems. Go ahead.
They make all these actions undiscussable.
Okay, so I'll show you how to make something undiscussable. Watch this. Look, I was born in Oakland, and we have this project we're going to work on. And if we don't get there, this is going to do a serious blow to me, my family, and our culture. We got to go. And if you don't want to go with me, this is probably not the team for you. See what I just did? It's not discussable. Or, you know, when I was younger, I never had money. So I got to get this money right now. And like, I suffered my whole life. It's been so much that just went wrong. So if I don't get that money, you know what this means to me? Who want to discuss that? Oh, I have trauma in this space as a woman. And, you know, if the men who work here, like when men talk to me a certain kind of way, I don't know if I can tolerate that. Anyway, I want to open a discussion.
Hell no.
As a black person working here, and I feel like, you know, I'm fighting for all of my people, and this really means something that we get here. John, I know you're white. What do you want to say?
Assalamu alaikum.
Like it's a lot. Or, watch this. Look, we need to move our, watch this one. I'm gonna fuck y'all up on this one. I'm looking at the market right now. Right now, the market right now is suggesting that we need to go this way. I'm online, you see it on the news, everybody's saying we gotta go this way, this is where we're going. He didn't say nothing to me. But to a defensive thinker, the conversation was over. Everybody says that, there's no problem. That's undiscussable. How can I prove everybody? What the fuck? In 350 million people, do you realize we're still polling and estimating? You can't understand what 350 million people think. You're just assuming. You know, most people don't like, what most people fucking you talking about? You mean most people that you can see? Well, that's a small ass number. Like if you took 3 Coliseums, well, how many people in Coliseum? 30,000? Right? So let's say 90,000 people, you put 90,000 people in front of you. It's probably a sea, like you say, okay, look around you. Put 90,000 people around you, like, as far as I can see people, okay? 90,000, okay, so I have $90,000 in this hand, and I have $350 million in this hand. Which hand, would it be kind of hard for you to choose? But yet, when it comes time to make a decision, it is. Isn't that crazy? Keep going.
Thus, they end up creating a world in which the bad is tied up with the good.
Uh-oh, this is going to get really nasty. This is the part I want to get to. This part right here, when I explain this to you, it's going to fuck you up. Okay, keep going.
So that producing the latter guarantees the former.
So, real quick, to produce good, you produce bad. If you're a defensive thinker, when you produce good, you produce bad. Did y'all hear what I just said? Cause this shit gonna get this. If y'all, this is gonna come outside your common sense, and your hood rationality. When you do good and you're a defensive thinker, you're doing bad. Huh? Watch it. Keep going.
Human beings cannot learn Model 1.
So Model 1, let me real quick. I'm gonna give you a quick summary. So Model 1 is this idea, just win. Does that sound bad? Just win. How many times you heard that phrase? Just win. Right? And it also suggests minimize our losses. Let me tell you what I just said in a defense of mine. I told you, don't take any feedback, no matter what it takes. Focus on the win. Don't change your mind to become rigid. And ignore feedback. Don't focus on losses. That's what defensive mind says. So Model 1, you'll hear people like, we're going to focus on winning. We got to focus on moving forward. You don't learn from shit. You repeat dumbass patterns. You'll go down a wrong direction. As long as it's moving forward, you think you win it. Not realizing you're actually losing because you're moving forward. Go.
So human beings cannot learn Model 1 without a lot of support from the society in which they live.
Meaning that you cannot learn defensive thinking without the society you live in. Society you live in teaches you defensive thinking out the gate. It's the way we talk in our culture. Keep going.
The support comes from the social virtues that are especially important in dealing with embarrassment or threat. These virtues are 1, caring, help, and support.
Woo! Okay, wait a minute. Oh my God, this is my favorite part. This shit fucked me up. Like I learned about this just recently. I felt it. I'm always getting accused for clowning it. I thought after a while I started thinking, fuck it, I'll quit talking to people because it's getting on my nerves. Some people would understand it. Like my mentor, if I talk to him, he gets it. A lot of people are like, oh, Nana, there you go Nana again. I hate that phrase because that's kind of a defensive way of sealing me off. But anyway, watch this. This shit is crazy. So, caring, help, and support. Does that sound negative? Okay. Respect for others. Does that sound bad? Honesty. Who in the fuck said honesty sound bad? Pastor Chris is in his car right now talking about I need to go have a conversation. Strength and integrity. But if you have a defensive mindset, you flip those to the opposite. You could preach that every day and be killing people under those titles every day. You could be destroying your company. You could be destroying a system. You could be destroying culture. You could be destroying educational systems and honestly believe in those things. But because you have a defensive paradigm, you produce the opposite. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide. Watch this. So respect for others. What does it mean to a negative person?
Defer to other people and do not confront their reasoning or actions.
That's negative side. That's a defensive thinker. I'm going to defer to others and not confront their reason. So that means that I'm going to start to embrace that this is this. Like, okay, so for example, when I'm respecting others, right, reason you're being threatened is because they're trying to attack us, right? And I'm never going to confront the reason, the actions, or why the action offended us. I'm going to say, see white people, see what they did, see what they did, see what they did. Because why am I doing this? Because at the end of the day, I respect and I love and I'm trying to protect and support my people. See what's happening here? So what does that make me automatically? That's what an activist is. That's what an activist is. The first one's an activist. Number 2.
Honesty. Tell other people no lies or tell others all you think and feel.
Yeah, what you think and feel. So I'm always being honest, tell you what I think and feel, no matter what it takes. Even if I shouldn't. If I'm trying to, okay, for example, okay. I have 2 kids. But depending on what stage they're at, they don't need to hear certain things. But if you say, well, no, I'm just telling the truth. It is what it is. You never seen that before? You have employees and they're in development stage and they're raggedy right now. And you know they're just going through a stage, right? And if you give them honesty and truth at that point, you can actually stunt their growth. Or I'm in a meeting with you and I think what you're telling me is not what I believe in. And I argue with you and fight you because I'm standing on my truth. I'm not going to see truth is subjective. It's not concrete. It's your truth. It's not the truth, it's your truth. So as I defend my truth because I'm defensive, because I'm trying to be honest, I'm not letting anything new come into my life. See, okay, let me give you another truth. You know, Tone, I grew up like this. I've always been like this. My truth is this. So it's hard for me to hear what you're saying because this is what my truth is. See that? I come from the hood. So I ain't used to nobody coming at me like that. That's my truth. You know, I went through some shit in my life. So when you said that, it triggered me because it's my truth. It ain't your truth. See, I'm working with a group of people now. If I gotta work with a team, my truth can't override everybody's fucking truth. I gotta be able to receive different truths and understand how it all fits in this equation I'm trying to create to move us to another direction. You don't get to walk on a single path of truth because it becomes destructive. Y'all see how cold this shit is? When you're defensive, you're taking honesty and turning it into a weapon. You're weaponizing honesty or respect for others as a tool to amplify your defensiveness that causes your own destruction. I'm gonna say, come on, somebody. Look to the person next to you and say, amen. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Tone. Go and grab it. Go ahead, Tone. Let the defense come on out. Go on, testify, bro.
I'm gonna try not to keep it too long. I'm not gonna lie.
Don't trump me.
I'm a little confused
You should be confused.
because this kind of goes back to the beginning of class when we were talking about content and context and how you're saying things right now. I get, but I thought we wanted to be truthful. So, like, if I was to say what you just said, but in a different way, like, you know, no, you did a great job. It's just that I think that, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm telling
You're
you my
simplifying
truth.
You're simplifying it.
I know, but it.
Okay,
I'm
so
just
you're
confused.
going.
I thought we wanted.
Yeah, you're shrinking truth.
confused.
You're shrinking truth. You're making truth. You're making it fit a story in your head. Do you own all the truth of this earth? Diversity. If anybody believes in diversity in this room, you realize diversity means that different truths will be in the room, right? But if you defend your truth and always speaking on your truth, what are you doing to the other people in the room that has their truths? Strategic thinking says you got to know how to show with your truths. So, for example, let's say if I'm debating court and I say, hey, court, I'm not sure if this is true or not. This is something I believe in, but I'm not sure. I'm always open to change it. This is what I think, and then I proceed. I qualify what I said because I realize it can't be your truth. It might just be my truth, right? Also, I realize that none of us, many times we're really operating on two assumptions. Like your truth comes from a whole bunch of gathered assumptions that you just somehow coined truth. Mine's come from a whole bunch of assumptions that I coined truth. So for our company to move in the right direction, we're going to have to identify first principle thinking, which is which ones are assumptions, and we realize half the shit we think doesn't exist. But you can't use first principle thinking if we're both trying to uphold our truths because we can't see our assumptions, right? So honesty a lot of times is giving you the license to stand on something.
Brad, this is so fire. I don't think this is so fire.
This is, you guys have no idea how this is the, okay, if there's something clogging the pipeline that allows knowledge to come into your brain, the defensive thinking is the biggest clogged system in your brain. Because when you're defending, everything has to pass through a security guard, but life is moving too fucking fast. And your security guard is slow. He rode a yellow bus to work every day. I'm not even lying. Like, that's how bad your defensive part of your brain is. And so you're over there, well, I don't know. Can you say it again to me? Well, you know, we don't want to hear no crazy shit. So, you know, we stand on our own truth. You know what I'm saying? Because we stand on business, dog. So say some real shit. You know what? This shit getting too deep. I'm about to smoke me some weed because this shit complex. That's a security guard talking. You got to be able to tell that security guard, man, just let shit go through. I deal with it when I get here. I'm struggling enough to handle that. Because in the end, even in all this noise, I can find some jewels. And when I find those jewels, it will accelerate my ability to grow and compete. Remember, you're not on an isolated path that will wait for you. Every goal you're trying to reach, there's a group of people right now that's about to move the goalpost every fucking day. Procrastinate if you want to. By the time you get to the point that you finally built your transistor radio, we're on computers now, bro. So this shit I'm going over, I'm showing you how when you have this undercurrent of defensive thinking, you take positive attributes and make them fucking negative. Social justice has produced more negative, and y'all can't see it because it uses positive words, and it fucks you up. So every time I tell you, social justice fucking suck, I hate it, this shit's trash. This shit is horrible. It's destroying human beings. If you want to say increase of suicide, I promise you it's a contributor. But when I say that, you be like, ooh, that feels so mean, Nana, because they're good people and they're trying to protect and they're this. But because it's defensive, it's actually upside down.
Hey, Tone, real quick. Do you when your daughter was 2 and she said, where does babies come from? What'd you say? Tell me what you said.
Smack, 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 or
I was just like, they come from mommy and daddy. I didn't go into detail.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Exactly. So when you were 2, you said they come from mommy and daddy. No details.
Right.
That was the truth in the moment. When she's 5, it was probably...
You're going to learn about the birds and the bees pretty soon, you know.
Yep.
Getting up, yeah.
9 and 10. So the same question, different truths based on the situation. But what he's saying is we so hell bent on standing on our truth at all times. That's where that becomes a negative.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that, because that's where I was confused at. I was like, how is
We're
that?
not advocating lie. We're saying
but
we're not advocating.
Great. No,
right. When you're defensive, what I'm saying is that when you're defensive, it's going into the system and having a different output. It's a good value. No one is saying honesty is like, no one is suggesting honesty or respect for others is bad.
Right.
We're saying, but when defensive, this is why you can have a church with good intent and have the worst behavior you've ever seen. It's not bad it's not bad actors. There's a system amongst us that's producing bad outcome that will sometimes identify individuals, but none of us had negative intent. You see where I'm going with this? Once you guys learn to see systems and how you bring 20 people together, there's another level of intelligence that's born. Not the 20 people in the room. This is why, like, y'all watch news. They do a lot of micro talk. A lot. If you do this to this person should do that, right? But no one ever discusses. But if you put 20 people in a room, you do it to 20 people. What would they do? The equation changes. And so what I'm saying is, if that group has a defensive undertone, and in your company, you're like, yeah, we believe in respect for others, honesty. Let's go with strength real quick. I'm gonna hit these other two real quick. Strength. Good strength.
Advocate your position in order to win.
Wait. So if I'm strong and I believe in strength, which is a good thing. We've been talking about strength and friction all this damn time and exercising and stress. But if you're a negative thinker, you're going to move in a space where you're going to advocate your position in order to win. Keep going.
Hold your own position in the face of others' advocacy.
I mean, I'm not sure I can change. That's where the fuck I stand. Go ahead.
Feeling vulnerable is a sign of weakness.
Do you remember when we used to teach humility and how people still struggle with humility? Because it's an attack on their so-called strength. It's not an attack on their strength. It's an attack on their defensive thinking. See, when you're defensive, you're using strength out of balance. Mm-hmm. You're focusing on, we talked about dog versus wolf. Those who are defensive heard bravado. They heard machismo. They didn't hear, what I heard was awareness. Mm-hmm. A wolf has a different awareness than a dog has because the dog awareness is suppressed. What they heard was, right? Because your defensive brain. So here's the fucked up part. Defensive people, when something happens to you, you have 2 points of reference of where you start your analysis. You can start from offensive space or you can start from a defensive space. So when you face problems day in and day out, guess where you start? Defensive. What does this mean to me? Mm-hmm. Are they coming for me? Mm-hmm. I'm under attack. How much money am I going to lose from this? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll give you another one. Defensive thinkers also think this. Here, this is just code. If I win, somebody got to lose. Mm-hmm. That's defensive. Mm-hmm. No, offensive says, I can win, you can win, you can win, you can win. So defensive people be like, I got to protect my position. I don't know who's coming for me. Last time he said something and he got it and I didn't get it. That means when Cat Williams was speaking, that was a defensive soliloquy. Mm-hmm. If he was offensive, none of that shit would have been said. Mm-hmm. You could have got everything you said. You could have did everything you done. It ain't got shit to do with me. Defensive person starts saying, he lied to me. He cheated on me. He stole my jokes. That's a defensive sickness amongst comedians right now. That's causing damage. You still not gonna make more money because if I don't buy your tickets, I don't give a fuck who stole your jokes. And if he stole your joke and told it better than you, maybe you need to practice and make another joke. That's how offensive think. That's how offensive think. If he came to me and said that as offensive advice, like, what should I do? I'd be like, make another fucking joke. And then figure out why they laughed at his joke, didn't laugh at yours, and there's some insights on that. That's what offense says. Defense says, you know what? We should sue that cat. You see the difference? Go ahead, Margaret. Oh, let me just say integrity real quick. And integrity is?
Stick to your principles, values, and beliefs.
Yo, this is my purpose, right? This is what my belief system. I don't give a fuck about none of y'all belief systems. This is my belief system. Okay, that sounds cool until their name is Hitler. That sounds cool until the name is Stalin. You guys want to go with this? All of you guys, when you're that hard in your beliefs, you're not that far away. You're just one choice away from those type of cats. You're in a world with other people. How the fuck you gonna hire 100 people and those things you're in the orange or red in that space? How's that possible? I want you guys to see how powerful this shit is. Like, you as a defensive thinker take the positive and make it negative and have a negative outcome. That means the more you grow, the more damage you do. This is why when you drive down the street, you say, where's the high rises? Defense took it away from you. And it's easy for us to be in defensive, right? Because our culture moves in the defensive space. Our culture is themed under defensive themes. So when you go offensive, do you realize when you're offensive, you remember that story I used to tell about water going down the hill? If it's, say that hill has many pebbles and rocks. As it goes down the hill, it's offensively moving. And when it sees a rock, it goes this way, this way, this way. A dam is defensive. Water, we ain't going nowhere. You done. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. And many of you guys don't realize, how do I learn more strategy? You got to turn your defensive thinking down. Offense is the gateway to strategical thinking, because what offense says, when something happens to you and you get that energy, your body goes, ouch. You tell your body, your brain goes, I promise you, your brain going to do this for a long time. I'm not sure when it ever stops. Your brain goes, in your own head, defense. And you say at that time, don't move, don't pause, don't call nobody, don't speak, because you're in a bad space. Find a trusted person next to you that you know that's offensive. Meaning that you all will always have it in you. Court, man, fuck y'all pursuer. This motherfucker told me he's gonna do something. He failed. The client's about to cancel the contract. The contract's $300,000. That dude got me fucked up.
$300,000 though.
But watch this. Offensively, what an offensive thinker says is this. He's gonna say is, okay, that's cool, but why'd you put him in that position, bro? You just see it before it happened? Did you test his skills? What has he done for you before? If it's $300,000, why'd you give him such a high responsibility? Okay, if he's done it every time before and he's been a wonderful person, he's an amazing person, did you call that man and make sure he's okay? You see what's happening? Offensive, I'm looking at options. All right, number two, if the person is upset, give him a call or offer him this as a counter offer so you can keep that contract, protect your relationship. Defensive person will then start to climb in the corner and shame themselves. Oh, I did bad. I feel so bad. I'll give you a contract back, whatever I got to do to pay you back. Oh my God, I'm so bad. But you said, but remember when you called me, you did tell me, and I did try. Haven't I always been? You see what defensive you're doing? You're defending yourself, right? Offensive person goes, okay, this went bad. Can we turn it into a win? Can we make this work for us? What can we learn from this? How can we flip this? Who do we have as relationships? How do we move forward? Okay, I'm gonna give this person a call. Hey, Mike, listen, man, I'm sorry, bro. I wasn't even aware we did that. Listen, I know that happened, but I already thought about 4 different solutions that actually work in your favor, work in my favor. What if we go this direction? You'll never get there. You'll never get there if you're rooted in defensive thinking. You will spend 3 or 4 days. By that time, the person's already made their decision, because then when you're defensive, this is what's going to happen. You're defensive and then you speak. You don't know how to pause. You speak. Blah, 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 blah. Now that person goes into the defensive stand, and they start to make moves to win the battle. So then they start to sabotage your role and make their moves. Now the contract kills itself. It never had to get there. If you would just pause yourself, your employees, your children, your family, your friends, pause it and go, how do I approach this? How do I approach this? Because otherwise, I caught you in my loop. You're in my loop. And a lot of times, you've destroyed more relationships, more opportunities. Opportunities, I mean, you didn't get them yet. You didn't even see them yet. But your defensive thinking destroyed the opportunities. Perfect example. Anybody's an entrepreneur in this room, you hire somebody young. You say, hey, I need you to sweep that floor. You come back the next day, let's say you're a new guest. Right? You got a new guest and walk through the office, floor is dirty. What the fuck? Guy goes, oh man, you guys don't pay, you don't have enough money to pay for janitorial service? I said, nah, man, we good. And mind you, you work around it because you're offensive. Oh, you try to be offensive. Oh, you apologize. Oh, no. It's just, you know what? It's one of my employees have a dog and probably brought the dog in and clean up after himself or something like that. I don't know. Call the employee. Do you think the employee now has a future with you if he says to you, oh, the reason I didn't clean up was because he said, she said, and that happened, and this happened, and you're like, and then when what's name pissed me off, I just left the office because I thought he's gonna clean it up. How do you feel at that point? Did your trust just grow or did it decrease? Mm-hmm. Right? As they defer, but if that person says, hey man, it's my responsibility, I actually really believe I cleaned it. What can I do? Tell you what, I cleaned up the rest of the office. I can promise you I will never have it again. I have no idea how I did that. I totally take full responsibility. You might be disappointed, but you want to give that person a chance. Mm-hmm. Right? The defensive person versus the offensive person. Or the offensive person says to you, listen, that went wrong. Can I call Mike? I've already called Mike. I talked to Mike. I let him know that was my fault. It's my responsibility. Number 2, I plan on taking care of this. Number 3, I've already done this. Plus, number 4, here are the things I did get completed. I think when I was working on these things, it totally distracted. As a human, you go, somehow I kind of like you for that shit. You were not surprised that 3 years from now, he's a manager in that role. Because they're moving in a way that's more offensive than defensive. So that means that a lot of promotions you didn't get is when that time you got jammed up and you was defending yourself, you devalued yourself. Mm-hmm. See how cold that shit is? When you was defending yourself, you lost money. There was an investor talking to you one day at a party that you didn't know was an investor, or somebody was interested in your business that was a family of investor, and just the way you talked about how you were under attack and how you responded to that attack made that person go, oh, let me go to somebody else. And it had nothing to do with business. What makes a person say, I want to let you hold this gold of mine that I work for, that I want you to return a profit to me, and I want to trust you, and you don't have my bloodline. You're not even connected to me. I'm going to give you this gold, but in return, I'm going to trust you to spend 6 months with my gold in the hopes that you bring me my gold in a percentage. And you're going to do that when somebody goes like this, blame, excuse, blame, excuse. And defensive people, that's the default way of moving through everything. I'm going to pause here and let questions come to the table because I want to answer questions, and then I'll pick up on this next week. So Marquita was first, and then we just rotated around right to the room, but I want to give room for questions. Go ahead.
I just want to go back to honesty. Can you give me an example? You hire a new graphic designer. They draw you stick figures. What is trash, but what is this response of non-defensiveness? What is an example of offensive and defensive responding to that?
If a graphic designer is trash, there's a way to still have the conversation. Like me being honest still requires from me how I need to say it in a way that respects that person. If I want them like, what the fuck is that? And I'm really trying to still work with that person, that's not gonna work. And we're not saying, there's not a basketball team in the world I'm saying, hey, they should have no defense, right? I'm saying you start at a point of defense. The person draws the stick figures, you're like, why the fuck you come to my office, waste my time? Defense. Mm-hmm. Not, oh, poor baby, you don't know what he's doing. Hey, man, listen, I know you want to be this. Let me talk to you about what you can do to grow forward and what you can do later on to come back to my company. I just can't work with that right now. That's not defensive. Mm-hmm. Defense would be like, this motherfucker come in here and got me convinced. And number 2, watch this. Defense gonna say, he came in here and stole my time with this bullshit. Offense says, what questions do I need to ask to protect my time? Mm-hmm. See the difference? Big difference. Mm-hmm. Huge. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Tom. Mm-hmm. She can, yeah.
Thank you, Darryl. So when you got to the end of these, you said that the reason when we grow, we essentially are creating more damage and sabotaging ourselves, which is why
if you stay in defensive
a lot
space.
of like skyscrapers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought me back to the conversation we were having when we went out to go grab some stuff and go shopping, when we were talking about how small the percentage of successful Black businesses were. And though I will say that in the moment that this question popped up, it definitely was from a defensive space. My curious space wants to know, how do you continue on a path where majority of people that attempt it are gonna fail, and you know that majority of your decisions you're going to make are going to be wrong, but you still want to defy the odds and be a part of the percentage that does make success, that doesn't self-sabotage. Like, what does that look like? Because it's hard to not feel doom and gloom when you do this, especially when you've dedicated like years and time into something. You don't want to root yourself as the losing team, you know?
You know, this is going to be a hard one because I have to go further. The story you built up is a defensive story that if you break it, it hurts. Right? If you learn to see black people the way you want to see them, that was defensive for you. That's the way to protect yourself. When we create these make-believe stories, it comes from a space of defensiveness. If you can still see reality and then rationalize it and then see hope, that's the power of offensive thinking. See, I see the same thing, but because I'm more offensive, I'm not completely off. Because there's some things I was like, I don't go through this, but I'm like, okay, that one I gotta work on that. That's one, and I like this kind of stuff because I like growing, right? I love growing. I love to learn new ways to grow. But when I hear the story of what black people are going through, I also know, well, what can be done? That's where my brain gets occupied. What can be done? That's where my purpose comes from. That's where my motivation comes from. So when I'm laying in bed and thinking, oh, I'm so tired, I'm thinking, nah, this shit's serious. Gotta get up. Gotta go. Right? Or if I don't want to do that today. No, this shit's way serious. But if I'm defensive does a lot of stuff. It makes you over-focus on self. And then when it comes time to think about others, you do a bad job at it. Because it's really, you've been defending so long, I don't really see you. I see myself and how I interact with you, what it means to me. I don't see when I interact with you, what it means to you, right? And so if my story in my mind says, if we're not this, then what does this mean? That means that I almost want you to sit in that space and see if you can convert it. To say, can I see light in this space, or do I need to change the story to make myself feel happy? Because if you don't accept that story and you feel sad and depressed, it's not because you're depressed, it's because you're anchored in this idea of if it ain't this, it ain't working. Mm-hmm. And see, an offensive brain goes, if I got one negative A, I still got a whole bunch of different variables I got to look at. So I may be saying, okay, these are variables I looked at so far for myself. Hey, you think this variable is possible? Let me talk to you about this. I want to just dance around some variables of some possibility options, right? And if you go back in history, look at history, you realize we're not in a bad space. We're not in a space we prefer, but 100 years ago, we be living like bosses, right? So a lot of the things that we don't have is based upon expectations and thoughts more than it's reality. And the reason that we're not performing in certain spaces, yes, economic suppression of African people in this country caused us to show up in a weaker space. But in poker, a bad hand ain't always a bad hand. It's a situation. You're moving like a new poker player, which, I got a bad hand. Fold. Dog, we just started. I know, but no need to start no shit. Fold. A professional poker player will take that hand in a professional play and win it because it's more psychological. So what I'm trying to say is that story you told, you're kind of upside down some ideas, but a lot of it is rooted in defensive thinking. And it requires we probably have to talk a little bit more offline to really kind of draw the strings. You know how you ever saw those crime movies and they show you the main boss, they draw the strings to all the participants, right? I can actually draw your string where you'd be like, oh shit, my paradigm is defensive. If your paradigm is defensive, then your hope needs a fake story to keep it offensive, to keep it real. Otherwise, a real life is it irritates me, it offends me. I don't want to brace for I need to stay over here and just be happy because real life's about to piss me off because it ain't doing what it's supposed to do. No, it's like we said a couple guys ago, you got to accept the life for what it is. But accept life for what it is not a negative thing. It's learning to realize that I was trying to the same dude squatting all that 400 some odd pounds on his back. He's like, you tell people always say, this cat, he's Filipino too. So it's like at this moment he sounds like Confucius. But anyway, he's like, he said, you know what's so crazy? He goes, a lot of times people say they're grateful, but they're not. Like, are you just grateful to breathe? You don't need to fuck up. I'm grateful for my kids, my money, my car, my house. Really, dog? Are you grateful to breathe? Right? Are you grateful just to be able to raise your hand above your head? I know some of y'all might think, huh?
No, that's real.
But you're so disconnected from life, some of us as young people, we take so much for granted, right? So then a lot of times we learn to tell a story and create a picture of what we want life to be, to move through it, to keep our story going, not the story that we need to adjust to become who we need to be. Remember I used to say a famous phrase, first year of hope. First year, in order to master reality, you gotta stop practicing make-believe. But a lot of us, we live in that make-believe rhythm so much that we don't realize we built it from a defensive foundation that when I start to break that bubble from you, you go, I need that to make me feel less offended. Ooh. Yeah, pursue it.
I got 2 questions. One, this is very enlightening, and I'm definitely connecting with the defensive thinking. Can you give another example of virtue 1? I seem to have missed that.
Model 1? Yeah, model 1 is this idea. It's kind of like you see it amongst, it's a big flaw, big flaw. You got to win. We got to win, baby. Got to win. Your company will start working on cover-ups and lying to you. You can't win all the time. It's not possible, right? And let's ignore the losses. That's where the lessons are at. Your losses and your failures are the richest lessons in your life is your failures. But if you keep ignoring your failures and shrugging your shoulders and only want to talk about the positive stuff, you're walking stupid. And then you'll take those few wins you can constantly repeat over and over like an old record that you just can't stop playing. And you'll keep validating yourself by these broken ass stories that you hold protection around. And I dare you threaten those stories. And the first person threatening those stories, you coming for them. Dude, you was sorry in basketball. What the fuck you talking about? You was a baller. Fuck you mean you was weak at this. And I was a baller. And now we don't like being around. Next party, I'm not inviting you. You fucking among stories. This is how you're moving. You don't realize how many people you are unconsciously rejecting, accepting, how many direction paths you don't take, how many lessons you don't learn. Do you realize that when you develop a defensive company, they can't even learn new software. They can't learn, I gave it to Lisa, she didn't like it, and at the end of the day, if a few of us don't like it, it's enough. The company has 1,000 people, fuck Lisa. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Right? Or at each meeting I'm selling it so much, and if Lisa and as I'm selling it, I don't need to know if it doesn't work for you. I just know that we need to do this. So this is just win. I don't care about if it doesn't work. So when you guys poorly use it, I'm gonna just keep putting more pressure, telling you guys you trash, and then you start underperforming in other areas because you have to put extra time just to use this trash ass software that I heard about from my friend that I now have a strong. You see how this defense is gonna keep tearing. There's just not a 1-2. It just keeps finding different ways to contaminate all these positive things you're trying to do. You're trying to learn and have a conversation. And Scott will tell me all the time, "No, I think you're wrong." Scott will challenge me all the time philosophically. That's one he loves philosophy. I'm like, "Yo, what do you mean? Let me hear where you're coming from." And we'll just dance. And there's times I'm like, "Yo, give me that book. I want that book." But it's not like, if I make you uncomfortable to disagree with me, or at some point I just even make a smirk, like, okay, what is it? What is it, kid? What do you want to talk about?
Here we go again.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's cool. I know. I love that you're a woman giving your opinion and shit. I mean, my power. Anyway, so, okay, that's great. We'll think about that next week. Or watch this one. That's a good idea, Shakina. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the committee review it. I'm gonna have the team sit down and look at it. I'm gonna have some people test it. We're gonna run a couple of trials. And if it works, we'll get back to you. Meaning I'm not gonna fuck with it. I'm defensive. I'll develop cool ass language to avoid shit. You know what? Tone, I think you're doing pretty good. Just a little bit more training, which in my mind, really thinking to myself, you fucking suck. Right? Or, you know what, I'm gonna send you to training, Tone, and I think that if I put you next to Mary, I think somehow you will get a chance to shine. He's gonna sense I'm telling him he's trash because I don't know how to show up offensively to the same problem, which is, hey, Tone, listen, man, I think we need some training for you. It's just not your thing right now. But guess what? I believe it can be your thing, and this is how we're gonna get there. See what I just did? Defensive, I'm gonna keep hammering on how frustrated I am. I don't even know why the fuck you got up in the morning, got here. what you wear a suit for? You ain't doing shit. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. I guess I gotta pay a motherfucker like you. Like, no, that's defensive. like you just can't feed that shit. Any other question?
Yeah, actually, thank you for sharing about that Model 1. That actually was not what my question was. It was about Virtue 1.
Okay.
I didn't understand the concept around the caring, help, and support, and how that applies in the negative.
Yeah, so caring, help, support. That's what all activists think they're doing. That's what Hitler thought he was doing. Pro-black people have caused more damage in the black community by selling hopelessness in the name of caring for them. They taught them that they're victim and they give them a license to have moral fucked up behavior because you've been abused. If I convince you you're hopeless, I tell you that nothing even matters anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? There's so many bad ideas sold under the name of pro-blackness, right? Or I over-focus. I am now defensive to the point when I build a company, I'm so defensive against white people that when I work with y'all black asses, I don't want no shit from you niggas. Am I lying? Y'all been around pro-black people before? They're harder on black people than any. I have a pro-black person in my family. If they're around white people, they're, hi, Mr. Johnson. No. So Mr. Johnson walk away. I can't stand his ass. That motherfucking racist ass cracker. But when they work with the black people in the family, they have this idea that, see, black people are not, they're not smart enough. They're not ready. They're lazy. They're not ready to take on the challenges that black people need to. They don't come together. They're not thinking about the next. They don't read. They're not, you see how I'm just shrinking them because I'm defensive. And as I shrink them, they become the NIGGERs in my head. And I'm pro-black. I don't even want to deal with a black woman no more because her mind's fucked up. I gotta give me a white woman because at least she gets me closer to the freedom I know we as a people can get there. You see where I'm going with this? I'm trying to explain it. This shit is so real. Y'all missing it. Like pro-black people can't build shit because they attack all. They're fighting. They have this inner fighting that's real because they're all standing on the truth. They're all militant. They all got to be this way. Got to be. They're so rigid. Their company can't flex with the market. I mean, if y'all really dig on this shit, it's in our culture. It's so cold that all of your hard work, all of your education, all your PhDs and everything is undermined by a deep, deep paradigm belief of defensive thinking. Like, that don't fuck y'all up. I don't know what it's gonna take to get you to see, like, yo, you gotta do, your inner mastery is so important because your inner mastery is your pathway to your offensive thinking. And so, honestly, quiet as kept, everything Cordes teach you, which is crazy, conscious leadership book that he's teaching you, that's all offensive talk. All of it, all that whole book. If you take each segment of that book, above the line, that's all offensive. Below the line is defensive. Above the line is offensive, right? As a culture, when you're defensive, everything that comes beneath that line, if you read, when he goes to below the line, watch how the defensive undertone continues to show up over and over and over and over and over. My employees, they should know this. Wait, that's defensive. What do you mean they should know this? Offensive says, how come they don't know this? I need to redesign the information. I told it to the customer. I told them what the warranty was. That's defensive. Offensive was, look, I want that customer to come back. Let's get that customer another product. What does it take? How much is it going to cost us? That's it. Man, get that product to that customer. You see where I'm going with this? Defensive customer goes, I have a complaint. Offensive says, shit, what happened? Defensive is like, well, okay, no, what we did was, no, well, I didn't know. And well, when you said it, remember I sent you the email what you sent to me. You start acting like a lawyer. So on November 17th, you said this, but that evening you showed me this. Then I read your phone records, which indicated, so at this point, I think you're lying. No. Offensive says, what's at stake here? Where am I trying to go with this? What sense does this make? Let that thought move because it's just a thought. Whatever feeling you have, let it go. Because at the end of the day, I'm going here. I'm not trying to be here. But if you're standing on truth, guess what you're doing right now? Yeah, okay, I'm offensive, but let me tell you what I'm really thinking, though. Just real quick, I got to say this before we get off the phone. I'm feeling some kind of way about what just happened. I mean, I'm going to give you the computer and shit, but I'm feeling I feel like something about this feels like it's just manipulative to me. But I'm going to see your computer anyway. Tom, why'd you say that? Man, I just had to tell the truth, bro. That's how I felt. See, defensive? It's actually cold. I want you to go through your whole week and just catch yourself and pay just take a note. Even if you don't change anything, Was I defensive or was I offensive? Was I defensive or was I offensive? And I promise you, 9 times out of 10, most of your thoughts were defensive. 9 times, I didn't say 9 times out of the rest of the week. 9 times out of 10, when you have a thought, you're going to start from a defensive space and try to work your way out. You don't know. And once you master this offensive game, once you finally master it, you're going to say, yo, if somebody get this shit, then they can take over the world. Yes, that's the trick. When you're offensive, you almost, your brain is always going, even if you're like, okay, I want to go this way, but your brain's already going, let me analyze that way, analyze this 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 way, and never get overconfident here. That means if something just in the middle just drops in your path, you'll be like, okay, that way. I already analyzed that. I already had a probability calculation. It's called a probability calculation. I need to change paths because I'm so offensive, I'm always looking for other options. Well, defensive, you drop that something in their path, and the first thing they say is they'll spend the whole day trying to get that thing to move, talking to their friends why they're there, why they're hurt, why they're offended, and at the end of the day, they're still not moving, and the competition is just flying by them. And then you wonder, why people blew this ship, and we had the same idea, we took it at the same time. If they're arguing in the office and they're debating all the time, you won't know if somebody's off and they're arguing, but they're not getting mad. They're just arguing. Like, damn, they argue about everything. They're probably more offensive. If you go to the office and we're all polite to each other and we don't say anything, we're probably more defensive. Ain't that crazy? Mm-hmm. Is that shit crazy? Mm-hmm. That shit crazy. A polite office is damaged. An arguing office is healthy. Mm-hmm. Black people, y'all know y'all ain't never heard no shit like that before. Come on, can we just act black for 5 seconds? Mm-hmm. Do I need to put on some hip hop, some soul music so y'all be like, what? Come on, black people. Go ahead.
I have a, were you about to say something?
Court told you this class, between me and Court, we hope somebody nose bleeding. Go ahead.
DMX.
I'll speak.
Arr.
Wow. That barking is wild. That's wild. One, I think that this is really helpful and dope in a lot of ways. And I heard you say we're going to focus on this for 2 classes. I was like, really? That's it?
It can go on forever.
Well, because one, I'm looking at all the slides and you're showing it in the workplace. We talked about it in the culture. So what that says to me is that it's everywhere. And even though you're asking us to look at it, it's going to take a while for us to see it.
Yes.
Because it's more like a second skin, right?
Yes.
So I appreciate you saying just write it down. Write down where your defensive thinking is, because what you want, what I want to do is, I got a real strong ego protector. I was laughing with Chamara today, said she's a mix of Diane Carroll, Cecily Tyson, and Felicia Rashad, like Claire Huxtable. She's a super educated something boy. She's an exceptional Negro. And she don't appreciate you saying things that she can't do or pointing out things that she is, right? And so the resistance to the fact that this could be you is to point at other people who do it, or say, yeah, I knew, see, that's how they do, or just being aware of how you don't want to be aware of how you participate in it.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. It can get so complex because everybody starts to cover up so many layers.
Yeah.
You won't know that you participate in it. Even if you see it, you'll deny it.
And when you talk about mastery, right, I think many of us are masters at covering up how we participate in it.
Yes, that's accurate.
Right. So it's like there's this space of getting in front of the cold, how ill you are at covering up where you are in the process. And what your own little tells of resistance to saying that this could even be you. Right. And I remember Court did this whole thing. Like one day he was like, well, if y'all are wondering if it's you, it's you. It's all of y'all. It ain't, you don't got to worry about I'm going to help you. It's you. And so, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, damn, this is everywhere.
That's what I'm saying. That's why when I say entrepreneurs, when you isolate it, you die on the vine. This is one of the reasons you die on the vine through isolation. Because if you can't have offensive conversations around you, you're gonna gravitate naturally. It's your innate animal instinct to go towards. That's how you survive. Your brain only cares about survival, which is more defensive focus than offensive focus, right? Now you're trying to build a high rise. Your brain's like, I don't know what the fuck that is, bro. It sounds dangerous.
And so the part that you said about it, as it gets bigger, it does more damage. I'm still stuck on that because I'm looking like, damn, what has it ruined?
It's so fractured. If it gets large, it's larger, like things can happen no matter what you do, right? You can be all wrong and still get something right in your life. But when it falls, it's gonna fall in such a nasty way. Like, okay, watch this: managing 100 people and you're defensive.
Yeah.
Live on the internet as an internet personality and you're defensive. I want you to just think about what that's going to do as it grows. It's one thing that somebody says, hey, no, I disagree with you, and I think you suck, you're trash. What if all day long, every day, 8 hours a day, all you see is things popping in your feed saying you're trash, I hate you, you're the worst thing that's ever come to this earth. I don't know why they even call you black. You're just trash, right? If you're a defensive thinker, you're done. Offensive thinking goes, what's that percentage? What's the numbers? What am I looking at? Because I might get some poll data for me. I need some accurate data so I can understand. And is this just a particular group of people that's like, when you build anything and it becomes strong, Elon Musk to me is a dope dude. Don't agree with everything he does. I don't need him to be my Jesus. But as a business person, he's dope as fuck. He also understands that rules are meant to be broken. The man who controls rules control everything. So Elon understands the circle of control, which that might be part of our next class, which is going to fuck y'all up more than this. But Elon Musk, as brilliant as he is, he ain't loved by everybody. He ain't nobody. You not about to be. Jay-Z is now hated on. How the fuck Jay-Z is hated on? What has Jay-Z done? But they're gonna find something. If he continue to list those, if he continues, and if you ever met anybody who's an internet personality, they'll tell you, I will get stuck on the negatives and not even see all the positives. Because defensive thinking is going to amplify every negative thing that comes to your ear, which is going to destroy you. So the bigger you get, you won't be able to handle it. But
so my question is then, how are you in your reflection recognizing?
We'll get there to how to get to the point where you can start to manage it. As you start to move in a certain kind of way, more of an offensive person, you will sense it in your company and you have a different conversation. So I had it with you guys when you first came along.
Yep.
Right? I had it with Marquita before. I've had it with Tennille before. When I sensed defense energy, definitely Danielle, right? When I would sense defensive energy, hey, let me talk to you a second. Scott, I've had it before with him before in the past. When I sense defensive energy, I got to manage that just as much as I got to manage the bottom line. Because if Scott turns loose and he starts to impact the team, I could lose my whole fucking team because of Scott.
I don't see people behaving with that level of, I don't know what to call that.
Yeah, just how you just how you decide.
You were the first time I ever saw that.
But Fight 10 Media has, there's a lot of .com coaches that actually build a pretty good job at that.
Fair enough.
Okay. .coms have been successful because they made that the culture. It's the internal branding. That's what internal branding is. It's how we do it here, right? So you can take a group of defensive people and make them come to work and show up in an offensive space and move in an offensive way and have offensive expectations. And if they can't handle it, we will switch players as long as you stay in this offensive rhythm. But if you're inside my company and I sense, because offensive players are going to upload to me, hey, this person is really tripping. No, you don't. I think at the meeting you said flowers, they only like fucking tumbleweed. They really pissed off right now, right? I'm gonna pull you aside and say, hey, excuse me, what's up with the tumbleweed and the flowers? What's going on with you? And I'm gonna want to hear it because I'm not. If I'm defensive, I'm gonna fire you. But if I'm offensive, what's going on? Well, I went through this kind of trauma. Okay, fine. Let's sit down. Let's work through that trauma. Because I do believe in you. But here's the thing. Here's the limitation in space I got to work with, because at the end of the day, we do have these other goals. And if it becomes a thing where it's a deep, deep level of trauma, you might need to take some personal time and get some counseling, because we do have to move at some point. But I will invest in you, whatever I have to invest in you that makes some sense, because I also need to send the message to the rest of my employees, I value them beyond their imperfections. Right? Also, I have to be able, don't you do it again. Also, in addition to that, here's another thing too. Offensive means that you can say something in a meeting that's absolutely stupid to me, and I gotta make you feel just as comfortable to say that, just as when you say something smart to me. Means I can't stand on my truth. Because in order for me to allow, that way I gotta make a safe space for all my employees to speak freely. At FIT Media, everybody speaks freely. Once you, and it can't be speak freely to make me comfortable or go along with my plan or don't change things. My team challenges me all the time and goes different directions. Every once in a while I'll be like, nah, I'm not bidding on this one because I don't care. Right? Like that little wooden thing behind the couch that I put there. They asked me 1,000 times, the team, can we move it? No. Pay the bills, whatever. But ask me how much they move stuff around the office and redesign stuff they want. Go ahead. I didn't want that ugly ass blue stripe across the wall. I think that's ugly as hell to me. I didn't want a lot of ugly shit we got in the office. I'd be like, whatever. But that's what they want, and it's not about me. I gotta say to me, that's what you don't like, Nana. But if you hold on to the office the way you hold on to it, as you get old, so will your office. So, Nana, just say, forget it. And when they say you like the blue, it's good to me. Let's do it. That's what makes y'all happy. Let's do it. But did I want that ugly ass turquoise blue? Who rocks turquoise? I'm Nana, baby.
I think a couple of times when we used to be at Mother's Cookies Lofts, you'd be like, yeah, if you want to buy it, you can put it in the office, but I'm not spending money on that shit.
Yeah, so when you're offensive, you realize in order for the powerful people around me to bloom, I got to give them space to grow and give them responsibility and ownership to make decisions. But when you're defensive, I would say, okay, Shikini, you have decisions to negotiate this contract. She comes back to me and she's like, okay, now I got 50,000. 50,000? What the fuck 50,000 gonna do for me? Huh? What kind of stupid shit was that? Okay, fine. I'll do it myself next time. You tell you what, you just listen to me, just don't do shit. I got this. I guess I'm doing it to her safe space. So next time I say, hey, can you go do this project? And I wonder why everybody's making me sit in all these negotiation meetings. Because I destroyed everybody. It's me, it's not her. But I will never see it's me if I'm defensive. I just keep saying, I just need to get some better people in this space because these suckers here are trash. No, it's me, I'm trash. You don't go with this like, it's really, these are little subtle differences of I got this result as opposed to I got that result because I'm offensive versus defensive. It's how your brain, and doesn't mean that I don't have a defensive space. If you go into my bank account and reach your hand, I'm fully defensive. Where you going? Put your hand on my account, right? Yes, I mean, look here. Oh, this a pause, not like that. So, but offensively, there's a way that I show up to those situations, and that's the evolution that Tone talks about. And everybody talks about like the old Nana versus the new Nana. Old Nana was heavy defensive. New Nana has moved towards offensive, and so even when I don't like something, I will feel the same energy I felt in the past. I won't speak because I know what's gonna come out of my mouth. It's gonna be trash. So I say, "Can I ask you a question?" Anybody knows me? That's my favorite. Can I ask you a question? And that's me trying to understand what just went down, and also tell the defensive enemy that's trying to come out, "No, we're gonna figure this shit out." That's offensive. Defensive is me passing a judgment, not saying anything to you, and then adding that to more things I don't like about you. Y'all got that shit? Is that shit cold?
Yeah.
All right, next week we're going to follow up on this. And then when I enter the circle of control, and you combine those two together, you guys going to see how so many things we do in our culture, we're destroying ourselves. And they all sound good. Everything sounds innocent. Some of this shit's been so back to us so cold, we will literally sing and dance about it and be like, yeah, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Not realizing, and then when you raise your children, if you don't understand the circles of their control, some of you Me Too people who I'm so into black women and women, period, because I don't understand how you separate men and women. That's just the weirdest shit in the world to me, right? Without one and not the other. So all that men versus women, leave me out of that fucking stupid ass conversation. But I will tell you this, a lot of strong women destroy little girls. You don't understand. You have to protect that young girl's circle of control, that young boy's circle of control. And if you destroy it too early, you'll produce a powerless adult. All right, with that being said, as they say in Ghana, I'll see y'all next week.